on you. So anyway,
I'll
good
take it.
evening, everybody. It's 5 o'clock. Good evening, everyone. It's 5 o'clock. Welcome to the Thursday, April 4th, 2024 Nantucket Conservation Commission meeting. Permit me to confirm that all members who are present can be heard. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mark Beal.
Here.
Kim Brain.
Here.
Seth Engelborg.
Here.
Mike Mazzarelli.
Here.
Joe Plandowski.
Here.
Linda Williams. Linda? All right, no Linda Williams at the moment. This meeting is being held entirely remotely, so all participants are participating via Zoom. The public may participate via YouTube. There are directions on the Times website as to how to join. If anybody wishes to speak, please raise your hand either in your camera window or virtually and wait to be recognized by the chair. Please state your name and any relationship you might have to the project before speaking. Please keep your device muted when you're not speaking so that you're not picked up by the recording and creating a distraction. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that others may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. We'll start the meeting with public comment on items not being heard this evening. And seeing or hearing none, moving on. The public hearing notices of intent, the following are continued. Third Point Holdings LLC, 39 Quays Road, continued until April 23rd. Woodbury Lane Associates, Rear Woodbury Lane, continued to April 25th. I can't read my own handwriting for Third Point Holdings LLC, and the same is true for Woodbury Lane Associates, Rear Woodbury Lane. And Nantucket Islands Land Bank, Lily Pond Park continued until April 25th. So on that note, we'll start with Manila 5 Gingy Lane, Mark Ritz, I believe. And so he doesn't seem to be present. So Will, have you heard anything?
No, they have not continued to my knowledge. We can hold this until the end of NOIs.
Sure.
I'll email Mark.
Sure, thank you. So that brings us on to Vandenborn, 135 Walnut Road, Art Gasparo. Good evening, Art.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. For the applicant, Art Gasparo, this is the second public hearing for the application. We've provided supplemental information to address some of the questions and comments at the first hearing, so along with a revised plan. So I'd like to just briefly run through that. You may recall that this was a residential redevelopment project that started prior to COVID, and the order had expired, and we're trying to finish up the project. There had been an approved elevated walkway across the vegetated wetland, and we have come in with a slightly revised configuration for that walkway. The commission had some concern, I think, with the overall length of it. The owners really wanted to add some curvature to it. So we have reduced the length of that walkway from what we had proposed. It still remains significantly shorter than all the boardwalks at grade that had previously run through this area, that have all been cleaned up, that had essentially, killed the vegetation, or at least seriously impacted the vegetation below them. And this, I think, is a significant improvement in terms of having an elevated boardwalk that'll allow pedestrian passage through there without walking on the marsh or having the boards, not marsh, excuse me, border and vegetated wetland, or not having the vegetation on the boards on the ground. And then there was a proposed shed that was slightly into the 50-foot buffer zone that the commission had some concerns with, and that shed has been reduced in size to remain outside of the 50-foot buffer zone. And then there also was constructed as part of the last project, the last order, but outside of the approval on the northeast corner of the house, a deck that had a platform with an outdoor shower and the HVAC units, which need to be elevated due to the location within the flood zone. And we heard the commission that there was concern with the outdoor shower, so that'll be removed. They would like to keep the fencing for screening purposes of the HVAC units. And I believe that addresses the changes that we made. We also made a slight reconfiguration of the driveway to narrow up the curb cut to comply with zoning requirements. Again, it's kind of all a sand type area out there for parking, but I wanted to make sure that we showed compliance for zoning as well. And they need to have an offsite parking spot. So we are hoping to be able to finalize this project, clean everything up, and then close both orders of conditions. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions or outstanding concerns.
Thank you, Art. And before I ask commissioners if they have any questions, I'd just like to register that Linda Williams joined the meeting at approximately 6 minutes past 5. And
Also,
yes,
apologies for the delay there in my screen share. I was just trying to get Linda renamed.
no worries. All right. Seth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is related to the driveway area and the proposed stepping stone walk. So previously the driveway in its original location was outside the 50-foot buffer. Now we're looking at a driveway that's inside the 25-foot buffer, which is of some concern. I understand there might not be any alternative on this site, but I feel like the proposed stepping stone walk is not integral to the project and probably should be removed just in favor of it being a grass path. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Seth. Art, do you want to comment or wait until other commissioners?
Sure, why don't I hear it, everybody?
Sure. Mark?
Thank you. Yes. I refresh my memory. There was not going to be any side rails on the boardwalk, isn't it? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Art?
So there was a parking area approved within the 25-foot buffer zone as part of the, or actually was sort of existing there. And it kind of went away as part of the construction, but this is an enlarged area within the 25-foot buffer zone. I don't think there would be any ability to have a parking area outside of the 50. And the owners, there's another parking area that exists right to the north of this that we would, essentially be kind of trying to condense and keep those parking areas together. So it's they feel like that's the best location for it to serve their property, as well as to kind of keep all of the cars in that area together. So that's, and in terms of the stepping stone walkway, I could get more information on that in terms of perhaps if if there was I don't have an exact detail from them as to what they're anticipating. And maybe if the stones were spaced out enough with grass between them, maybe I could get you a detail like that might meet any concerns with creating sort of an impervious area that would create runoff.
Yes, Seth.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, I know it's technically a permeable layout if the stones are wide enough away from each other, but it's less pervious than vegetation. I mean, also, it looks like there's possibility that that entire stone walk could be located outside the 25-foot buffer. But I don't know if that's true or not. So just a little bit more clarification on that and whether a different type of material is possible that's a little bit more permeable would be great. Thank you.
So Seth, could you clarify, as I looked at the plan, the entrance to the porch is with, is about 30 feet from inside the buffer zone. And so how would you propose putting a walk outside the 50?
No, not outside the 50, outside
Oh.
the 25.
Okay, yeah, got you. Yeah. I misheard you, I guess. So Art, any comments from members of the public? So seeing none, Art, how would you like to proceed?
Let me take this back to the owners and see what we can try to come up with. And so I'd like to continue to the 25th, please.
All right, thank you. Continued until the 25th.
Thank you.
And that brings us on to Slezak, Takanak Island, and Brian Madden. And yes, there you are, sir. Good
Hello.
afternoon, good evening, whichever it is.
Yes. Hello, everyone. For the record, Brian Madden from LEC. This NOI was filed after the emergency cert was issued for relocating the southerly portion of the deck and associated addition portion of the house that was closest to the eroding coastal bank. So this is just an after the fact filing. The work has already been completed. The addition is up on cribbing at the end of the driveway within the existing lawn area. You see here on this plan within the northeasterly portion of the property is a conceptual house location. There still needs to be a natural heritage review for that. Obviously, that's well removed from the Concom jurisdiction. But the house is going to remain up on cribbing until a botanical survey is required for this relocation project. So it's going to sit on cribbing until that gets completed and other permits are received as necessary. And so this is just for the after the fact removal onto the cribbing for now. And we did get the natural heritage letter, which we were waiting on last time around. So I'll turn over to questions.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions? And seeing none. Any input from members of the public? So, Brian, would you like to close?
Yes, please.
And Will?
We have everything we need to close.
Great. A motion to close, please. Thank you, Mark. Seconded by Mike. So by roll call vote, Tim Brain. Aye. Seth Engelborg,
Aye.
Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Joe Pandowski,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Ian Golding, aye. And since I see Mark Ritz is now with us, unless anybody objects.
And Mark Beal votes aye.
Mark, I apologize.
It's that dark shirt, Mark. You just fade into the background.
Well, that and the list I wrote out that is incomplete. No slight intended.
None taken.
Okay, thank you. So, Mark Ritz, would you like to present 5 Gingy Lane?
Yes, good evening. Mark Ritz from Site Design, representing the applicants at 5 Gingy. I apologize for my earlier absence. A small plumbing emergency got in the way. Um, we've been putting this one off for a little while. At the last meeting, there was some input from the public and there were questions from commissioners. One of the issues that came up was a question about the age of the wetland delineation. Instead of, discussing the old delineation, we asked Brian Madden of LEC to go out to the site and do a new delineation for us back, I believe it was in February. He went out to the site and reflagged the wetland. The wetland line you see on this plan is based on his most recent delineation. And what we see is there's an area where the wetland has in fact moved up. On the western side of the property. That is where the spillway is from the rain garden on the western part of the lot, the drainage easement there. So basically, the wetland has crept up towards the spillway where additional water is flowing out to the wetland. On the eastern side of the property, the wetland boundary is essentially the same as it was in the original submittal. So we've shown newly calculated buffer zones. All of the development that we had proposed previously is still outside of the 50-foot buffer zone. In addition to doing the wetland delineation, we also conducted a test pit just south of the proposed spa. And we found the groundwater elevation at that spot was approximately at elevation 20 or just under 20, just lower than 19 and change to 20. The spa that we're proposing is going to be 4 feet deep, so the bottom of that spa will be greater than 2 feet from seasonal high groundwater. The garage is a slab on grade, so that will be outside of the 2-foot groundwater separation. However, the proposed dwelling, the top of foundation elevation is 29, and the bottom of our footings will not be in groundwater, but will be just above groundwater. They'll be just above 20, elevation 20. So we are requesting a waiver for the foundation for the house to be just above groundwater and within that 2-foot separation. Other than that, there are no significant changes to the proposed project, just the revised wetland delineation and the test pit. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions from commissioners? Yes, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When we were out for the site visit a couple of weeks ago, there was, as politely as I can put it, the site was in need of some cleanup within the 25-foot buffer, and I guess it's more of a question for Will. But did that get done before we proceed with this?
It actually got done that day through you, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I'm not sure I could find it now, but I had video evidence of that small piece of chain link fence being removed.
Completely take your word for it.
Yes, not necessary. So, thank you, Mike. Linda.
I had the same questions as Mike, because there's containers, there's wood. I know it's probably on the lot next to this one, but it's involved with the construction of the house. There's a lot of junk over there, some very close to the wetland. So I just wanted to make sure that that was all gone. I have spoken to him about it, but I don't know if it's all gone. So I'll leave it up to Will to figure that out. But there was a lot more junk over there than just some stuff, including a container.
Yes, Will.
I can say, and I know Seth and Mike were there for a site visit with me that day too, but all the stuff for construction seems to be, I'm looking at the plan in front of me, but there was like a fence barrier erected around, I think, where the building is going to be, and all those materials seem to be in that space. So I don't know if those used to be all spread around or in a different location, but nothing caught my eye besides that stuff in the 25, which is now gone.
Linda, are
Okay,
you satisfied with that response?
Not necessarily. I'll head back up there again because I was there before any of it was cleaned up. So I'll go back up there again and see if it's still where I thought it was.
Okay. Seth,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think there's a pretty easy solution to this. If we do decide to close this today, we can just have a condition requiring the project representative and the Concom staff to meet on site prior to the construction to ensure that any debris is cleaned up or removed. So could probably handle that one pretty easily. Thank you.
you're welcome. Any other questions from commissioners? Any concerns about the waiver for the foundation, for the footings? And I certainly, from the photographs that have been provided, interfering with water getting into the wetland is not a primary concern at this point. So, any questions from members of the public?
There are a couple coming in. I'm just promoting them to panelists.
Thank you. I see 3 raised hands, I believe. So,
And sorry to interrupt. I don't know if if Ann Rubin and Chris Bevis or Beavis can hear me. You might have to accept the invite to be a panelist. That's just so we can see your hand and you can be on camera and whatnot. Thanks.
so I seem to be flying blind here because I can't see a raised hand.
They are in now, but they have to re-raise their hands. Sorry.
Okay, good. So, RJ, we'll take you first.
Thank you, Chair Golding, RJ Torcott, on behalf of the Nantucket Land and Water Council. We appreciate the changes that have been made since this project was initially heard. I just wanted to ask a question of the commission about the waiver being requested. The waiver is 103F3A, which is stating that this is going to provide a long-term net benefit improvement to the resource area. And I'd just like to point out that this is a currently undeveloped site and that they should be requesting the waiver, that they don't have any reasonable alternative to staying out of that 2 feet of high groundwater. I wouldn't want the commission to start saying that this sort of thing was an improvement to the resource area. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, RJ, for pointing that out. James Gillum, would you identify yourself, please? And go ahead. Mr. Gillum, you're muted. All right.
Okay, sorry, I was on mute and I didn't realize how to do it on the webinar. James Gillum, 56 North Liberty Street, somewhat of an abutter. A question through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mark Ritz on the house itself. Is there a basement level plan to this house? It seems like there's not. That's my first question. And in particular, I'm thinking today, after this past couple of storms, we have flooding in the neighborhood. So I'm just wondering, is any of that being taken into the ground absorption or anything being taken into consideration? Groundwater absorption. Because today, after the last 2 days of rain, we now have flooding in the neighborhood a little bit. And it has been aggravated three times in the past because of construction nearby.
Thank you, Mr. Gillum. Mark, would you like to reply?
Yes, through the chair. There is a foundation. There is a basement planned for this house. We're going down with a top of foundation is 29 feet. We're planning to go down to just above 20 feet with the footings. So there will be, it's not going to be a full height basement, I don't believe, but it will be a basement with, mechanicals and storage in there. So that is planned. And in terms of, current rainfall and flooding, again, we looked for evidence of high groundwater, seasonal high groundwater. We looked at the wetland delineation, and we did both the test pit and the delineation not too far after the last round of flooding in the rain garden. So we feel that we've fairly accurately captured, fairly wet conditions this year.
To you, Mr. Chairman, thank you, Mark. The one thing I would like to make and almost insist on is when the foundation is being dug, that's when we had flooding instances, fairly significant flooding instances in two houses nearby on Gingy Lane. That could be very strictly adhered to because the drains in the street, again, are catch basins. They go nowhere. The ones in North Liberty Street, again, are catch basins. So any water associated with the foundation being dug will have to be taken off site. And that should be some sort of a conditional, I think, somehow or another, because being said that's what's going to happen and what happens is two different things sometimes.
Thank you, Mr. Gillum. So, Ms. Ann Rubin.
Thank you, Commissioner. As an abutter on Gingy, we're still experiencing water issues on our side of the street. Mr. Ritz, could you just explain to us the new delineation of the wetlands and if the rain garden that we were told by Phil Manila was supposed to be like a drainage area and kind of help us with water issues on the street now falls into the wetlands, because there's still a good amount of extracurricular items on 5 Gingy as well as the rain garden. So I think we're just all as neighbors just trying to better understand personal property versus the rain garden and if it now falls in the wetlands.
Thank you. Would you like to see the revised wetland delineation on the screen again, Ms. Rubin?
That'd be really helpful because I didn't quite see what's considered a buffer zone versus what's not.
Yeah. Can you see that?
Yes. So what's the drainage easement, which is what we call the rain garden on the street, does that now fall within the wetlands delineation? Because before it was much further back.
Mark?
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely.
The cross-hatched area is what is basically the rain garden on the property. And that was a constructed basin to help alleviate some of the drainage issues for the entire Gingy Lane Street development when it was originally done. The wetland line that you see there in the green dashed line, wetland flag 7, right before the curve, used to basically continue to the west and bend down towards the south. So that curved part has crept up into the rain garden where the spillway, there's a berm in the rain garden that acts, to create a basin, and the spillway is just north of wetland flags 9 and 10. So the hydric features in the soils that classify an area as a wetland have expanded slightly basically towards the rain garden, but the rain garden is a man-made drainage feature that was constructed on site and is not, a naturally occurring wetland itself.
Thank you for that explanation. I guess, as a neighborhood, I think we're just all, we all support the construction of 5 Gingy, and we are fully behind the Manila's building on this lot. I think to the gentleman's point on 56 North Liberty, I think all of us are just very concerned about additional water and how it affects the properties around it. So I think, we're in full support of construction of this lot, but just to try and understand with this new delineation that you came up with, that people are paying attention to the amount of water we're experiencing right now.
Mr. Beavis?
We've had problems with,
Identify yourself, please.
I'm sorry, Chris Beavis, 47 Westchester,
Thank you.
abutting on the west side. There have been considerable concerns about drainage and about grading, whether it was according to plan, during the construction of 9 and 11 Gingy. And I think that goes hand in hand with what people have been saying about continued flooding. So I'm not sure the Concom is the place to address it, but I'm not sure the engineering was really either done according to plan or well thought out for Gingy Lane in particular. So I'm not sure what we can do about that at this point. But I note with some alarm that in the revised wetland delineation, the wetland is moving quite close to our property line.
Yes. Seth, do you wish to reply?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So I would say that we are only able to kind of discuss the proposed activities on the project locus and what's being presented by the applicant. But that doesn't preclude anyone else in the Gingy Lane area or the Gingy Lane Homeowners Association, if it exists, to come with a new proposal to improve that rain garden or that drainage easement. I don't know what the homeowner structure or the management of that is, but if the neighbors there think that there's an issue and that needs revision, they could bring a notice of intent to deal with that. We unfortunately in this application can't do anything directly to that drainage easement because it's not the focus of this application. But the only thing we can do is place conditions on the project that would not exacerbate that flooding. But if you think that the drainage easement is not substantial enough for the flooding, given the changes that have happened in the last 2 decades, you could bring a notice of intent to make that larger or more sufficient or whatever. So thank you.
I'm not a member of the Gingy Lane HOA. I'm an abutter. So that would not be possible for me, as I understand it. When I've previously expressed concerns about drainage not being grading not being according to the approved plans, it was referred by planning and land use to the HDC, which didn't make much sense to me or them. Although fortunately, they did go out and look at it and verified that the grading had been substantially modified and had that corrected. But I'm just kind of frustrated that this has been an issue and it just keeps on getting passed on to the next development and not addressed.
Well, I think we can all see why, Mr. Beavis, but as you can see, we're constrained on this from our perspective.
I understand.
Yeah, thank you. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had one point and then one question for Mark Ritz. I'll start with Mark's question just because, or the question I have for Mark because it's relevant for the neighbors' concerns. Has the owner considered adding some additional drainage to help the neighbors out with their concerns, and would he be willing to do that, I guess, is my question. And then just following up on Mr. Gillum's question about when the foundation is being dug and water displacement, I didn't quite understand what we could potentially be doing about that. Maybe Mr. Gillum could elaborate on that, or Mark, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Mark, do you have?
Yes. Well, I think, in terms of the development we're proposing on the lot, we've kind of minimized it all into one, one house, one garage, one very small area. I think we don't really have the ability to improve drainage on that small section very much. And in terms of the rain garden, the entire drainage for, which accommodates a good chunk of Gingy Lane itself, that could be addressed as a separate issue with the HOA. I'm not sure who has control of that at the moment. I know it's an easement on this lot, but I'm not sure who has actual, control over maintenance and upkeep and proposals for expanding that. But that could be explored with the HOA.
Mike, do you have a follow-up?
No, I just forgot to take my hand down. Thank you.
Linda?
Yeah, I've said it in the past. Lily Pond estuary runs right underneath this. So that's adding to some of the reason why it keeps pocketing that much water. When I was a kid, I rode by it every single darn day because we lived around the corner on the corner of Cliff and Delaney. And when Al Silva had his stuff in there, it was all wet all the time, except for the right side where he had a bunch of his little shops and stuff. And I know when it came through the planning board for the subdivision and the rain garden was required, et cetera, and they first started to subdivide, that rain garden looked totally different. Went in there to look, and it didn't look anything like that when they first started to construct and subdivide and put the road in and whatnot. It didn't look, it was much more open. It actually looked like it was performing what it was supposed to do, to take some of the water from the fill and construction. And there was stuff thrown in it and stuff like that over the years. And you can't really, I couldn't even figure out where the hell it was when I went in there, knowing where it was in the past. So it looks, and I'll follow up what Seth said, is that it looks like it's not performing as it should. It's clogged. It's got a bunch of stuff in it, whether it's foliage or other things over time, which were already on the site back in the day. I think it would behoove you to get together and figure out how to put it back the way it was so it can perform what it was. But I know the groundwater's increased. Lily Pond estuary is not going anywhere. It's running through it. And I'm just concerned about the displacement of the water that I used to see when I was a kid, all into one little space, and it's got nowhere to go except into other people's yards, into the road, into the guys on Westchester and North Liberty. So I think there's a global issue here on the fact that it's the drainage that was supposed to help is not working as it's supposed to. And I feel really concerned about that.
Are you asking staff to compare it to the original order of condition to see whether or not it's something that the commission should deal with?
I think so, because I did look at the requirements from the planning board side of this. And I just don't think it's operating the way it's supposed to operate anymore.
Okay, so Will, could you take note, please? And Seth, I see your hand up.
Yes,
Before I
thank
get to
you.
Other members of the public.
This is in relation to Mr. Gillum's comment, question for Margaret. So my understanding of the footings of the main house, that they'll actually be above the groundwater. So will dewatering be required or not?
We don't believe that dewatering will be required because they'll be above the elevation where we've observed seasonal high groundwater. So we're gonna go down to just above the seasonal high groundwater elevation, put the footings in there, and construct up. So we don't anticipate dewatering being required.
Thank you. I would just say then that might alleviate some of the concerns in that potential on the other projects that have been referenced that dewatering was required. I don't know the history, but in those cases, the water, has to go somewhere. But in this case, there isn't really any water to go anywhere. It's because the construction is above the floodwater elevation, or groundwater elevation. Thank you.
Let me see. Cynthia Mayer.
Yes, hi, Cynthia Mayer. I am a neighbor of Gingy Lane. I appreciate your support for all of the time. As a neighbor, I would like to go back to Linda Williams' question. I know a couple of you have mentioned in that there is a lot of extra stuff, whether it be in the rain garden, that as neighbors, we feel should be cleared out. And I know one of you had made a comment, it should be an easy process. Literally, we have lived here for years and we have been waiting for this rain garden to be cleared out of trailers, boats, cement pieces, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we would ask that, you go back and please take a look at the property and get all of this cleaned up so that the rainforest could do, what it is supposed to do, not having any of this extracurricular things in it. And we are kind of astonished in terms of it does look like that the wetland buffers have moved a lot compared to what was initially planned for. So thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Gail Nishimura.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Gail Nishimura, and along with my husband, Christopher Beavis, we own 47 Westchester. I have a question for Mr. Ritz. When he came up with the design as how the water would flow into the rain garden, did he take into consideration 9 Gingy, as approved by the HDC, is supposed to be level with the cypress trees? Last time we checked, it hadn't been leveled, so I'm a little bit worried, kind of as raised by Ms. Williams, that Westchester is going to be absorbing some of this runoff instead of it going into the rain garden. We're very concerned. We're directly abutting these properties that it's going to go into our yard.
Mark?
Well, I'm not an engineer and I didn't design the drainage or the rain garden. This was done, I think, on the order of probably 15 plus years ago now, if not 20. So I can't really speak to that, and we're not proposing any changes to how any of that has been. Again, we're just proposing a house, a spa, and a garage outside the 50 here. So I can't really speak to how that original design was done and what it accounted for in terms of development and grading on the lots as they were developed over the last 1 to 2 decades.
So I think one of my concerns is that per the original design, 9 Gingy, which is right next to 5 Gingy, and we abut both those properties. 9 Gingy was a much higher elevation and thus spilling water into our backyard. And so I'm just kind of worried about the overall scheme of how things are if that has not been revisited. Again, the HDC already, when they approved 9 Gingy, it was with the understanding with the change, which is post those original plans, that 9 Gingy would be level with the cypress trees so that there wasn't a dip going into 47 Westchester and just putting water into our area.
So, Ms. Nishimura, I think it's clear that abutters and neighbors have a lot of concerns and that these have been building for many years. But Mr. Ritz's application is strictly for this house and appurtenances on 5 Gingy Lane. So we can't directly address your concerns, I'm afraid.
Okay, understood.
Okay. So Linda, do you mind if I listen to we listen to 2 other members of the public, or do you want to?
Fine. Go ahead.
Okay.
No, fine.
Yeah. Anne Rubin.
Hi, I just wanted to follow up on Mr. Ritz's comment about the HOA. I'm one of the trustees on the Gingy HOA, and we've had a number of conversations. The owner of 5 Gingy is actually a trustee as well. Our understanding as a trustees on Gingy is that the drainage or rain garden sits as part of 5 Gingy's property. So the HOA has no jurisdiction and we have no rights to it. We were told by the owners of 5 Gingy that that's part of their property. So if there's a different approach to how the drainage should be looked at, it would be helpful for the Gingy HOA to understand that, because it was always explained to us by the owners of 5 Gingy that that rain garden is personal property and just, yes, it is supposed to be for drainage, but it's part of his personal property. So the HOA has no jurisdiction over it. So I guess from a drainage question, it keeps getting punted back to this is just an applicant for the house, but who has jurisdiction over the rain garden?
Mark?
Those are HOA property questions are unfortunately above my pay grade. I honestly couldn't answer that with any confidence. I'm sorry.
So I've asked staff to have a look at how the original rain garden was drafted and whether, and see if we have any jurisdiction going forward if it's not functioning as it was planned. Will, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I'm very happy to dig into that original plan more and see if there's anything that we have jurisdiction over. But my understanding so far from my boss is that we do not have jurisdiction over that sort of thing, like the rain garden, and it is probably mostly up to the HOA. But I'm personally not 100% sure on that, so I think more research could be done into this.
Thank you.
But
So-
Jeff seemed pretty certain that we don't have jurisdiction over that.
Okay. So, Mr. Gillum, do you have anything to add that hasn't been said before I ask Ms. Williams to comment?
Yes, I do. I have an observation, and also then we'll have a question through you to Mark Ritz. The rain garden was created in 2008, by the way. Or at least the plan for it, excuse me, was. And I have no concerns over the visuals and the things that are in the rain garden and whatnot. That's a neighborhood issue, a Gingy Lane issue. In relieving some of the water issues in Gingy Lane and making the rain garden work effectively, what we do not want to happen is that the rain garden then dumps more water south toward Westchester and the back ends of North Liberty. So that's an observation. My question to Mark Ritz was, in the design of 9 and 11 Gingy Lane, did you anticipate any dewatering to be done there? Because there was extension dewatering done. So that's what I'm asking.
Mark?
My part in this, I work primarily with Concom jurisdictional issues, and as far as I recall, on 9 and 11, we had fairly limited work within jurisdiction, and most of the housework was outside of, at least partially, if not largely, outside of buffer zones. So I didn't really, I don't have enough information on that to answer that. All I can say is that our engineer Dan Malloy was out on this site, conducted a test pit. He is qualified to do so, found evidence of groundwater, has provided that data. And all I can say is that, we're not anticipating a need to dewater on this lot. I can't speak to the other ones or what was originally done or proposed or discussed for those lots.
Thank you, Mark. Linda?
Chairman?
I think part of the problem started many years ago before most of you were here. Because when I was young, years ago, we saw fill being brought in to that lot to take out the wetlands. So a lot of what's happening right now is just being exacerbated because of the level of the water now, all sorts of other things. In fact, that houses were built, but I saw dump loads of dirt going in there to fill in the wetlands before any of this started taking place. So now we're paying the price for it. But my question is, I don't think it can take one more ounce of water in that thing right now. My question was, harking back to you, Mr. Chairman, to Mark, was it my understanding you're putting a full basement in this thing?
Yes, we're proposing a full basement with footings to be located, bottom of footings to be located just above high groundwater.
Well, as you know, the high groundwater is changing. I know there's a project out of town where they miscalculated and they were 2 feet below it. And I'm just wondering, with everything changing constantly because of the groundwater changing the height compared to the foundations, plus a full foundation, as I mentioned before, we had to fill ours in with 12 feet of sand because of Lily Pond running under my grandparents' house. And it's given problems to everybody who's had a foundation all the way over to Lily Pond. And if you put a full foundation in this thing, that's going to displace even more water. And where's that going to go? I understand why everybody's asking for a dewatering plan, but I'm concerned about a full foundation in this particular lot. I saw what happened with the ones down at the end of the street driving it over towards Westchester. I fully saw it. I fully saw the dirt go over there. So that was before my awareness of filling wetlands. That was, we're talking decades. But I'm just concerned about a full foundation going in here and displacing even more. So I don't know if there's an answer to that, but that's my concern here with a foundation like that.
Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Perhaps we can, provided we move ahead with this, we could put in our order of conditions to ease Mr. Gillum's concern that there is no dewatering allowed. They'd have to come back to the commission. I'm assume we're capable of doing that if it's discovered that it's needed.
I assume it would be a minor mod. Yeah, we could condition it that way. Seth?
Yes, I think we have that ability that if they start to dig the foundation and water is encountered, that we can condition it for work to cease until the order is amended. I would just say the alternatives to full basement foundation that exists are a crawl space or a frost wall footing, and we could maybe get some clarification from the applicant about whether either of those would make any substantial change to the height of the footing or the depth of the footing, I should say. Because it's really, I hear what you're saying, Linda, about the displacement, and that is true, but it's if that footing never goes into the water at all, it's not displacing anything right now. It has the ability definitely to displace water in the future, because we know that sea level rise is causing groundwater to move closer to the surface. But we would have to have some real evidence that would be happening within 3 to 6 years, not just an assumption that might happen later in order to condition the project like that. So thank you.
Thank you, Seth. So there we have it. If there's no more comments from members of the public, Mark, what would you like to do?
Just one quick comment. I'd just like to say that, the regulations require us to design to meet current performance standards and current conditions. And we feel that we have done that by determining groundwater elevation and staying above it with our proposed footings. We're not in the business of predicting what's going to happen potentially in the future. We have to live with the rules as they're written now and meet the requirements as they are now. And we feel that we've done that. That said, I think we would like to close if everybody on the commission is satisfied with the discussion thus far.
Thank you, Mark. Will? Are you,
Yes, we do. We have everything we need to close.
commissioners, a motion to close? Thank you, Tim. Seconded by, there appears to be a reluctance to close.
I'd
Second,
rather see it continue for more information.
I'll second it.
Well, procedurally, Linda, I think after we've had a motion to close and it's seconded,
Yep.
we would have to vote for going for a continuance. So, so by roll call vote, Mark Beal,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg,
Aye.
Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Nay.
Ian Golding, aye. So that's 6 votes for it with 1 against. And I think we all share your reservations to a certain extent, Linda. So that brings us on to Montana 49 Nominee Trust, 49 Walwinet Road. David Haynes.
Good evening. I think we're going to have an easier one for you, another one.
Thank you.
This one continued from last time. You had heard it last time. It's putting in panels outside of 50. We're going down to the 37 and a half around it to maintain it and keep the vegetation down. They will be ground mounted solar panels out of the view of the road. The owner didn't want to see him either. So that's why he's encroaching into the woods over there. However, so we heard this last time. We were asked for a continuance because we had had a letter from Natural Heritage with a requiring a botanical survey. However, they had no issues with rare wetlands wildlife, so there's no issue with the order of conditions. I asked for the continuation in case I found a species of concern in the area and we had to redesign. I have since done the botanical survey, or we have done the botanical survey, and the site is clean of the endangered species of concern. We are still waiting to finalize everything with Natural Heritage. However, I feel comfortable that there will be no more issues, and so we could close the hearing tonight and issue if you would desire.
Thank you, David. So, commissioners, any objections to closing the hearing? Anything from members of the public, Will? So, a motion
Negative.
to close. A motion to close, please. Thank you, Mark. Seconded by Mike. Thank you, Mike. By roll call vote, Mark Beal,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg,
Aye.
Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Ian Golding, aye. Thank you, David.
Thank you all and have a good evening.
You too. So moving on to Burnham and Buttrick, 26 Warren's Landing Road.
I have to recuse from this, Mr. Chairman. This is a long-standing client.
Certainly, thank you, Linda. So, yeah.
All right. Brian Madden from LEC representing the applicants. This is also a proposed solar array project. All right. So the proposed work involves an 80.5 foot long by 13.6 foot solar array within the westerly portion of this backwards L-shaped parcel. There's bordering vegetated wetlands to the west. And I realize, I think of the plan that you see in front of you, maybe some of the line work isn't coming up as clear, but just to review some of that detail. Oh yeah, yeah, there we go. Thanks, Will. So we have BVW to the west, and a portion of the project site for the solar array is located within land subject to coastal storm flowage up to elevation 8. The amount of vegetation alteration has been minimized around the solar array, basically 5 feet to the north, east, and west, and 10 feet to the south. And then you see the underground electric line continuing off to the east. The area is currently occupied by bayberry, and no trees are proposed to be altered as part of the project. As necessary, the interior will be loamed and seeded, but the intent is to keep the topography as is, and just mow down the bayberry. The panels, no formal regrading is proposed. The panels themselves are going to be supported by ground screws that will just be driven into the natural grades. The existing grades average around elevation 7 in the proposed footprint. And again, the flood zone elevation is 8. The lower portion of the elevated panel will be 18 to 30 inches off grade. So above that flood zone elevation, the max height of the panels is not going to exceed 5 feet in height. So pretty low lying. But it will be completely shielded by the surrounding vegetation and not visible. This is pretty an isolated location on its own. The electrical interconnection, again, it's subsurface, is temporary impact that will be restored in kind. The electrical interconnection will be conducted in compliance with FEMA and state local building codes. And as proposed, the project has been specifically designed in compliance with the flood zone performance standards to allow the land to absorb and contain flood waters and buffer inland areas. As proposed, the project does not require any waivers. All work is situated upgradient of the 50-foot buffer zone. And this is not within a mapped natural heritage area, but I will turn it over to questions.
Thank you, Brian. Commissioners, yes, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brian, when you said you were going to mow down the bayberry, wouldn't you be just ripping it out in the clearing area so it wouldn't grow back up around the panels and then seed the ground? Did I hear that incorrectly, or?
Yeah, it's just going to be mowed down, and then like the interior is going to be consistently mowed. I guess as you know, there may be some level of ground disturbance as any temporarily disturbed areas will be seeded to make sure the area is vegetated and stabilized. But there are no plans to grub or remove or do any grading here.
Okay, I would have thought they would want to grub and remove, but if they want to just mow it down, that's fine with me. Thank you.
Problem.
For future generations to make candles. Right. So, any further questions from commissioners or members of the public? And seeing none, would you like to close, Brian?
Yes, please.
And Will? Do you have everything?
Yes, we do.
Great. Motion to close, please. Thank you, Mike. Seconded by Tim. Thank you, Tim. Mark Beal?
Aye.
Tim Brain?
Aye.
Seth Engelborg?
Aye.
Mike Mazzarelli?
Aye.
Joe Plandowski?
Aye.
Ian Golding, aye, with Linda Williams recused. So, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
That brings us on to 72 Pocomo Realty Trust, 72 Pocomo Road.
Brian Madden from LEC representing the applicant. The proposed project involves the removal or demo of existing structures and reconstruction of a new main single-family dwelling. And secondary structures comprised of a guest house, gym, shed. There's a proposed pool with associated patios and decks, regrading, hardscaping, and landscaping and utilities. Just to review resource areas, this property has been before the commission in recent years. I think most recently, a couple of years back, we had filed a similar application for the prior property owner for redevelopment proposal. This is for the new property owner. And what we have for resource areas is an eroding coastal bank to the west. And then to the south, further to the south, there's salt marsh, transitioning to a bordering vegetated wetland system on the outer fringes, and a coastal bank that is not consistently exists across the entire length of the southerly portion of the site. It's somewhat fragmented, disconnected by topography and flood zone elevations. But as proposed, the project is moving away from resource areas. Specifically, under existing conditions, the existing dwelling is within 50 feet of the eroding coastal bank. Based on CZM short-term erosion rates, the erosion rate is 1.1 to 1.2 feet per year with 1 foot uncertainty. So nothing too significant here. But the proposed reconstruction of the project, which is in that lighter orange footprint, the majority of the structure, aside from a deck, is outside 75 feet to the coastal bank. So moving away further to the east, associated with some of the additional site work with the BVW. To the south, there's no proposed structures within 100 feet of the BVW. No work proposed within the 50-foot buffer. We are proposing to do some revegetation along the southerly portion of the site, and we had submitted an accompanying landscape plan where there is proposed regrading. Within the buffer zone, we are proposing to regrade and revegetate some of those areas with a native meadow mix and native shrubs comprised of sweet pepperbush, inkberry, bayberry, arrowwood, beech plum, American holly, winterberry, and/or sweet fern. We are requesting a waiver for some revegetation within the 25-foot buffer zone to the eroding coastal bank to the west, where we're proposing to abandon some existing lawn areas within that 25-foot buffer and revegetate with a native meadow mix comprised of Pennsylvania sedge, hairgrass, little blue stem, and American beach grass. And we have requested a waiver for that long-term net benefit improvement. And all proposed structures are upgrading into the 50-foot buffer zone. No work proposed within the 25-foot buffer zone to the southerly coastal bank. And with that, I'll turn over to questions.
Thank you, Brian. Questions from commissioners? Questions from members of the public? Seeing none, Would you like to close, Brian?
Yes, please.
Will, thumbs up?
Indeed.
Okay, the motion to close. Thank you, Mike. Seconded by Joe. Thank you, Joe. By roll call vote, Mark Beal,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg,
Aye.
Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Joe Pandowski,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Ian Golding, aye. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
So that brings us on to Nantucket Islands Land Bank, 84 Union Street. Rachel? Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Rachel Freeman, and I'm here tonight representing the Nantucket Islands Land Bank on a notice of intent application to manage Tree of Heaven, or Ailanthus altissima. And this is an application for 84 Union Street, which is within the Consu Springs Marsh. There's a very small patch, which is definitively the only trees on the site in the middle of the marsh. And our goal is to attempt to eliminate it, or at least reduce it so it doesn't spread any further. Just a little bit of history in the Consu Springs Marsh. This property is basically part of a network of wetland resources in the area. And the Consu Springs Marsh was generally connected to the creek's salt marsh system, but it was bisected by a railroad berm in the mid-1800s. And so inland, it tends to be more freshwater, and on the ocean side of the berm, it tends to be more heavily dominated by salt. So the purpose of this project is to minimize and eliminate the Tree of Heaven. As I said, this is a species that was brought to the United States from central China as an ornamental plant. One of our biggest concerns with this species is that it actually is one of the preferred host plants of the spotted lanternfly, which is an extremely destructive insect. And the way that this management occurs is you basically do what's called like a hack and squirt method. So you use a small axe to basically hack and penetrate the bark, and then you put herbicide, a form of herbicide, which is actually an aquatic triclopyr, into the area where you've penetrated the bark. And then once the plants die, or hopefully die, then you can actually remove the dead trees themselves about 6 to 8 weeks after application. This is the first time we've treated Tree of Heaven on our property, and we are excited to see how this works. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Rachel. Any questions? Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rachel, I'm just curious how big the infestation is in the area. Is it like 1,000 square feet or less, more?
Much less. I want to say there's probably 10 tall trees. It's very visible. It is, if I had to estimate square footage, I'm guessing it would not exceed 500 square feet, but it's probably less.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for the removal. Is more of a, oh, thank you. It's just more of a question.
Yeah,
okay.
it's
I think I've seen
really
it when I drove by it.
Right, it's basically the only thing that is tall in that area, frankly, other than Phragmites. So
great. Thank you. Thank you.
no problem.
Yes, Tim?
Sorry. Yeah, just a quick comment. Spotted lanternflies, I was in New York this summer when they were invading, and they're really gross. So I think this is a good project.
They're actually
I
really
would
pretty.
They look pretty, but they're horrifying.
I mean, I hate them, but they're pretty.
Well,
I would
perhaps we
prefer not to see them on Nantucket in mass
Not at all.
numbers. So
Mark, will you?
Yeah,
Thanks.
just a question for Rachel. Is this a sumac relative?
You know, that's a really good question. It appears to be, but I don't actually know. That's a very good question. I would have to look into that.
Looks,
But you're right, it does generally look like a sumac. I would agree.
So you don't want to retain them to try and trap every lanternfly on the island, I take it.
Well, lucky for us, there's other places where this tree exists. No, we don't.
No.
One of its common names is stinking sumac.
There you go. It is a sumac.
Obviously
Thank
not
you,
held
Will.
in high regard with a name like that. Any questions from members of the public, or Rachel, would you like to close?
Yes, please.
And Will?
Yes, we do.
Good. So motion to close. Thank you, Mark. Seconded by Joe. Thank you, Joe. By roll call vote, Mark Beal,
aye.
Kim Brain,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg,
Aye.
Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Joe Prandowski,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Ian Golding. Aye. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you very much.
So that brings us on to McDonough Curlin, 334 Nantucket Road, Park Gasparo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before the commission tonight with a notice of intent for the relocation of structures away from an eroding coastal bank. This is the last house on the left or south side of Nantucket Road, right before you take the bend of the bridge. And we had, under an emergency order that you issued, picked up the garage that was teetering given some of the storms earlier this winter, and it's been picked up and put on cribbing in a temporary location. And the owners would like permission to pick up the existing house and move it into the northeast corner or the northernmost corner of the property, and then the garage would go to the south of that. We have a pending application before the Zoning Board of Appeals to be heard next week for reducing the side yard setbacks and front yard setbacks so that we essentially could get the structures as far away as possible from the eroding bank. The structure would be on a pile foundation for the house and then a frost wall and slab for the garage. The septic system would be removed and replaced with a proposed tight tank in between the structures, which are shown in red on the plan. So I believe this is a beneficial project in terms of trying to move the houses before they fall into the over the coastal bank and buy some more time for the owners to enjoy their property. And be happy to take questions or concerns if you might have any with the application.
Thank you, Art. Questions from commissioners? Yes, Tim.
I'm just curious, how far from the bank will the new location be of the house?
I would need just a minute to get you that information, but if you want to go, in case anyone else has questions, I can look that up real quick.
Actually, that was going to be my question too, because I noticed that on the plan, there was no indication of how far it was.
As far as possible. Sorry, I don't mean to be. I'll get to the number though.
No, that is clear. Mike?
Art, is where the house sits now, does that reflect where you're going to be if you get the zoning board's approval to go farther into the setbacks, or is you're just sort of at the limit of what you can do right now?
No, that is on the same application was filed with both boards. So that is this approval is dependent upon well, essentially we have to get all required permits So if the ZBA was not inclined to issue that, then I would have to come back to the Conservation Commission.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other?
If I could add, though, I will say it's one of the few cases where in general practice, the zoning board of appeals has issued variances for yard setbacks.
Thank you, Art. Any further questions? Yes, sir.
And I have your answer. The corner of the house and the relocated position to the coastal bank would be about 56 feet. So I'm not measuring it to the deck that you see on the plan, but to the corner of so it's the southwest corner of the house to the top of the coastal bank is about 56 feet.
Thank you.
So. Any
And
further?
I'm sorry,
questions?
Mr. Chairman, and the garage would be about 42.
Okay, well. Any further questions about this Hail Mary, if I may say that respectfully? So. And seeing none. Anything from members of the public? And Art, you clearly would like to close?
Yes, please.
Yeah, Will?
Indeed, we have everything we need to close.
Yeah, so motion to close from Joe, thank you. Tim, thank you. By roll call vote, Mark Beal,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
Steph Engelborg,
Aye.
Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Ian Golding, aye.
Thank you.
And that brings us on to Glenby LLC, 33 Northampton Avenue. And you're up again, Art.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an application on the South Shore area that also experienced a fair bit of erosion through the past few months. And there's a bit steeper of a drop off there, and the owner would like to install a set of beach stairs over the coastal bank to get down to the beach, which is shown in red on the plan in front of you. We are proposing to use a set of aluminum stairs so that they could be removed seasonally and or hopefully avoid having timber lost to any erosion. And then also shown is they would like to do a double row of just your traditional snow fencing with wood, not metal posts, to hopefully try to promote the development of a natural dune at the base of that coastal bank. We're not proposing to bring in any sand. All of this work would be done by hand, and that's the extent of the application.
Thank you, Art. Questions from commissioners? Yes, Seth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have concerns about the snow fencing, particularly in the layout that it is described on the plan with the double row, because I'll point you to the Nantucket Wetlands bylaws or Nantucket Wetlands regulations definition of structure coastal engineering. And it reads as any structure intended or constructed so as to prevent or alleviate storm damage or modify tidal action, wave action, littoral flow, or erosion. And then there's examples. I'll skip some of those examples, but the last example is multiple rows of fencing. So I feel like based on the definition of coastal engineering structure, the double row of fencing would count as a coastal engineering structure. And I certainly wouldn't want us to permit a coastal engineering structure on the site without justification for why that's needed. I would also say that the snow fencing has been over the years a problematic tool because if it's the one I'm thinking of at least, it tends to break easily and cause debris. I think there's been some benefits for the more robust sand-drift fencing, but definitely not in the layout proposed on the plan. So I think we need some additional clarity here. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth. Art, in conjunction with Seth's question, is there anything like this on the abutting properties?
I think that along that South Shore there's, historically been quite a few installations of, snow fencing, some of which was lost over this winter. I don't think that it would constitute a coastal engineering structure, but I also don't think that it's worth sort of probably a big debate over that. If the commission felt a single row would be acceptable, that I think we could try to make that work. And I think it does serve two purposes. This is a beach used very widely by the public, and helps to deter activity on the bank as well, for vegetation to grow and remain stable. So I think that if I think there is a benefit to it there, and it's a very limited amount, and that you really have someone that's coming in and asking for permission to do this, whereas there's, I think, an awful lot of that tends to happen without it.
Mark? Mark, do you mind if I defer to?
No, thank you. I'm here. I just wanted to say we've approved other kinds of snow fences. And I know that this form you're suggesting has got metal in it sometimes, and that's been a problem. On the wood slats can float away, and not the best solution, but the metal has always been problematic. They seem to work, but other kinds of fences, we approve them all along the Pocomo Bluff. Have you considered another form of snow fence?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, and I could take that back to the owner. I was trying to go with what was more traditionally used in this area, to actually minimize the type of structure that would be down there. The more robust picket type of fence tends to have a larger post. We typically install those with some machinery. But again, if the commission felt that was a preferable solution, then I think we could look into doing that as well. Instead, I thought that the snow fence was a more minimalist approach at this particular location. But again, if I'm not hearing any concerns with the stairs, I'm open to some guidance on the fencing in terms of your preference, and I can then take that back to the owner. And I guess the question would be, I think, if you were okay with a single row of the snow fencing with the wood posts, we could go that way. If you wanted a more robust, if you suggested that a single row of or double row of the more robust panelized type fencing, then I certainly would just request a continuance, and I suspect the owner would agree to that, but I just don't want to commit to that without a discussion.
Yes.
Thank
Seth.
you. Thank you, Art.
Thank you, Mark. Seth?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I certainly don't support the multiple rows of fencing, given the concern with how our regulations are listed. I could support a single row of snow fencing as long as appropriate conditions for monitoring that snow fence and cleanup of that snow fence were put into place. That there was regular monitoring, and also post-storm monitoring, and that debris cleanup is required in a certain amount of time. Then I could support that. It is a material that is not particularly robust sometimes, and can fracture and cause impacts to the resource areas that we're protecting. So we would need robust conditions into place to make sure that there's no wildlife entanglement or anything like that. Thank you.
So, Seth, it sounds as though you're not completely in agreement with Mark. For art going forward, are we proposing a form of sand drift fence without any metal, or what are we suggesting that art go to its client with?
I mean, the applicant has proposed snow fence here. If they want to close the hearing and do that here, then we could condition the snow fence to meet the performance standards as long as we put the appropriate conditions in place. If the applicant wants to go back and talk to the owner and consider the alternatives, that's up to them. So thank you.
Art?
Thank you. This is all very helpful. And we actually have to continue for natural heritage.
Okay.
So I think I've got some pretty clear guidance. I think the single row with the conditions may be amenable. I hear what you're saying. Wouldn't matter what I come back with. You don't want to see a double row to avoid that debate on the CES. So once everybody has, we've received all your input, we will request a continuance. That'll give me the opportunity as well to provide a revised plan that you can look at before we close the hearing, and perhaps even offer some of the conditions as suggested by Mr. Engelbart.
Right. Any further comments from commissioners or from members of the public? So seeing none, continued until April 25th.
Thank you.
Thanks, Art. So that brings us on to SBPF, Sconset Beach Preservation Fund, 59 through 83 Baxter Road, various, and Dwight Dunk, I believe you're on, sir. Good
Yes,
evening.
Mr. Chair. Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen just to give you just a brief update as to where things are standing on the site. First of all, I just want to thank the commission for issuing the emergency certification. The homeowners that availed themselves of being able to do work during the emergency period feel much more comfortable having some of their Coyer terraces repaired and replaced during that period. So, we just want to thank everybody for issuing that emergency cert, and certainly with the storm of the last couple of days, getting some of those Coyer terraces repaired alleviated some concerns by the owners. And just there was the DEP file number issued. So we have that 483759. We have not to date received any comments from the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program. This was filed as a joint WPA MESA notice of intent. And basically just wanted to follow up. Obviously, there was an emergency certification issued after the January-February storms, essentially to maintain the status quo that's been out there since the early mid-2000s, 2004, 2007 timeframe when Coyer terraces were first installed. And the emergency cert was issued in February 23. Work was conducted and completed on March 23, so that the work was only occurred within the 30-day emergency period. The notice of intent before you tonight was submitted within 21 days of receipt of the emergency order as required by that EC. And as discussed during the emergency cert discussion, the Coyer terraces are not a CES as defined by the DEP, and is requested to continue to be in place by the homeowners to provide an interim tow protection until such time as a longer, more robust system can be installed. This is a summary of the work that was completed during the emergency period. lot by lot. I'm not going to go through and read this. I have submitted this as a memo to Jeff Carlson earlier this evening. It was late afternoon, so that everybody can have a copy of this table. But as you can see, there were, on many of the lots, there were a couple of rows of Coir terraces installed, patched together, repaired, replaced. A couple of homeowners chose not to do any work during this emergency period. There were 2 dump loads of debris that were collected and removed from the site during this work. There's some additional Coir material from those storm events that remain, that's buried, partially buried. So they got everything out that they could during that 30-day period. And there's also been flotsam and jetsam from fishing boats and whatnot that's washed ashore. That's not Coir material, but debris that's washed up along the shore. And folks went out a couple of days ago, took pictures, just to let you know, this is reporting on what was done during the emergency period. So lot by lot, as of 2 days ago, after the work was completed, we can see, the Coir terraces that was replaced at 63, 65. There was terraces that were still in decent shape that remained, and then areas to the north, to the right, were replaced. An additional row here at 67. Some repair and augmentation or addition above the pre-existing Coir at 69. 71, not too much, just a little bit there to augment what was remaining. 73, I have 75, 77, the Coir that was there, you can see it's weathered, and then another row up behind it. 79 actually experienced about 18 feet of erosion of the toe on that slope. And there was a few rows of Coir terrace installed at 79, 81, and then 83, there was no additional work done. In the other part of the notice of intent, when I talked with Mr. Carlson about the emergency certification and pursuing these repairs, replacements, maintenance, I think people on the commission understand that the prior installations that were done, like I say, circa 2004, 2007, pursuant to those older orders of conditions, these maintenance has been in a gray area. So part of it was to get a new order of conditions to allow the homeowners to continue to maintain the Coir terraces at their properties, again, to maintain the status quo. So the intent here with the requested order of conditions would be to allow owners to do the additional repairs, replacements up to 4 tiers that was not able to get done during the 30 days, to continually inspect and repair, maintain, or replace terraces as needed. The construction equipment would access via Higgs Hollow or Codfish Park. The equipment materials would stay above the mean high water line when doing the work, and then during the annual maintenance to add 2.3 cubic yards of sand per linear foot, which is consistent with the what's been out there for years. One of the other changes here that we just want to make clear that SBPF is the applicant here. SBPF will remain as a coordinator for this work. It will be up to the individual homeowners to decide what they want at their properties if they want it, when they want it, but it will be SBPF coordinating the work, coordinating the contractor, and coordinating the annual letter report. I know there's with the past everything, SBPF got those original orders, but then it was up to the individual homeowners to do everything on their own. So again, SBPF as a group won't be paying for this work to be done, but they will coordinate those activities. You know, so what we want to do is, you know, coordination and reporting, conduct post-storm inspections, after storms, erosion events. Owners will determine whether maintenance is needed or not, the extent of maintenance, and then SBPF will report in the first quarter for the work conducted in the prior calendar year to, you know, with a letter report to identify the contractor that performed the work, the maintenance and repairs that was conducted at each lot, the dates that the work was conducted, and the sand source and sand volume placed at each lot. I think consistent with practice, the contractor will notify notify the Conservation Commission with the work start notification. That work start notification will likewise identify the contractor, the proposed dates, and provide the grain size analysis to show that any sand being used out there is consistent with the beach. And just the summary of the main points here in seeking to maintain the status quo along this reach of Sconset Bluff. The work here is proposed to help to blunt erosion of the bluff. We know that the Coyer terraces are assist in minimizing erosion. They don't prevent it, but that it will help to stabilize things and provide some level of protection that will not increase erosion or decrease the volume of the beach. The Coyer terraces will be covered by sand to protect them. In terms of the DEP, they're not considered a coastal engineering structure. For Commissioner Engelborg, just want to identify that statement is relative to the DEP. Again, we'll check sand sources to make sure it's compatible by grain size. And again, this is provided as a joint MESA WPA notice of intent. And to date, we have not received comments from the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program. And that was really, I just wanted to talk tonight, like I said, about what was done to date under the emergency order and the plan to go forward with an order provided an order of condition is issued, so that what's been going on out there for the past 20 years or so can continue. And with that, we're available for questions, Chair Goldie.
Thank you, Dwight. Questions from commissioners? So, Mike, yes, could you cease the screen sharing for a moment, please?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
A question for Dwight. I appreciate the presentation, how it was done. My question is really, I guess, sort of on the monitoring. The biggest complaint we've sort of heard here lately was Coyer Terrace material being on the beach and not being cleaned up. And then, so my question, because it's through SBPF, but goes through various homeowners, it leaves the door open for like some he said, she said, in the event that things need to be cleaned up from storm damage. So just want to hear either from you or Meredith how we propose to deal with that. Thank you.
Yeah, what we've tried to do is SBPF being the coordinating body is to kind of avoid the he said, she said situation, so that the SBPF would be contacted the SBPF then would reach out and get that work done. Meredith, if you have some more detail that you can provide, that'd be great.
Yeah, good evening, Meredith Moldenhauer, on behalf of SCPF. I think you bring up a good point. One of the reasons why I think Dwight made the distinction here is that, we are trying to clarify some of these issues by having SPPF, and we've coordinated with the owners to make sure that, there is more of a uniform communication through SPPF for repairs, for maintenance, for reporting back to the Conservation Commission. The only aspect that the homeowners in regards to this permit would have flexibility on would be, if they wanted to provide more or less than 2 rows, and kind of but if they have their maintenance issues, they would not have an ability to say yes or no. We would obviously enforce compliance with all conditions of the order. Happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you. I'll just wait to hear from other commissioners as well. Thank you, Meredith.
Yes, Seth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do think that some of the issues with the current installment in terms of monitoring and maintenance, and also the conditions being really outdated for the type of project that we generally permit in today's day and age, could definitely be ameliorated by a new permit. I do, maybe Dwight was anticipating this, but I do personally believe that under the Nantucket Wetlands Regulations definition of coastal engineering structure, it's my personal opinion that Coar terraces do meet that description. And I'll clarify that this is strictly under the Nantucket Wetlands Regulation definition, not the Wetlands Protection Act or DEP. I'm just going to read what structure says, first of all. Structure says a combination of materials assembled at a fixed location to give support or shelter. I think it's clear that the purpose of these terraces is to provide support to the coastal bank. And then in structure coastal engineering, that's any structure intended or constructed so as to prevent or alleviate storm damage, modify tidal action, wave action, littoral flow, or erosion. And I think by definition, Coar terraces are probably doing all 5 of those things. Coar terraces are not specifically called out in the definition, but it does say or others as determined by the commission. And it's, it's not it says include but not limited to the items listed there. And if you look at the items listed there, some of them are, I would say, less intense in size and scope than Coar terraces. You have artificial seaweed, plastic sheeting, multiple rows of fencing. So it's my personal opinion here that would meet that definition. Maybe other commissioners share that, or maybe they don't, but I think we should have that discussion. And if other commissioners share that, then we should require the applicant to submit the analysis of whether those lots would be applicable for coastal engineering. I know it's sort of already been submitted for another project that they've applied to, but that has to be submitted for this record as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Seth. Dwight, do you want to reply to Seth before I recognize Mark?
Yes, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Engelborg, we also look at the definition in engineering structure in the regulations, which is a little more specific relative to coastal, which reads any bulkhead, revetment, wall, riprap, groin, jetty, plastic sheeting, or other structure intended or constructed so as to prevent, alter, alleviate, or contribute to storm damage or modify wave action, littoral flow, erosion, surface water pollution, and groundwater quality or flow. And I think one of the issues here with Coar terraces, and maybe some of the delta between the Department of Environmental Protection, and in the Nantucket conservation, Nantucket wetland regulations is that the Coir terraces do deflate during storms. They give up sand during storms. They're the weave of them is such that sand does escape the terraces. So by deflating over time, they give way, and storms, they can be overwashed more regularly than a hardened structure. And that's why they need the maintenance and the repair and the refilling periodically. As we can see in the pictures that occurred after the storms this past winter, and large storms, the bank behind these Coir terraces does continue to erode and contribute sediment to the littoral system, because these truly are not a hardened, robust environmental coastal engineering structure. Again, that's looking at it from the perspective of the department. That's why the department does not look at them that way. I think so there is some debate there in terms of the definition of engineering structure and general structure, and where there have been Coir terraces out there, like I said, going on 20 years. Part of doing the notice of intent is as Commissioner Engelborg mentioned, those were older conditions. As I said, there was just a big gray area with those, and the desire to get a new order of conditions, get everything up to current date, so that the owners can continue to have some level of protection for this period of time.
Thank you. Seth, you would like to reply before I recognize Mark?
Yeah, just quickly without too much back and forth. Yeah, Dwight, I hear you, and I think there is some difference in the DEP's guidance and in what the Nantucket regulations say. But because of how the permitting works, we have to make sure that they meet both of the standards. And I'll just say on record, this isn't the first project that I've personally brought this up in. I've brought this up in other areas with COAR and with installations around the island that they seem structural to me. So I do think that, that's my opinion, but I'm going to go on record as noting that. Thank you.
Yes, Mark?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Golding. I think there's some merit in what Seth is talking about under our bylaw, that they are possibly, we should have more views on that, but I think that they do sound like a CES to me. Be that as it may, Dwight, I need some help on the 2.3 yards of sand per lineal foot versus the 22 yards for a geotube. There's quite a difference there, and I realize that there is additional erosion with coir rolls that you don't get with geotubes, but by that logic, there should be more than 22 yards of sand on the coir rolls to prevent any erosion. So you got to help me a little bit with the number of yards per lineal foot on these coir rolls.
Sure, Commissioner Chair Golding, may I respond?
Of course.
Yes. Yes, Commissioner Beal, the 22 cubic yards per linear foot, as is discussed, for the other project that's before you, is actually exceeds the contribution rate by the bluff. The bluff at its highest point with its highest erosion rate was documented to contribute 12 cubic yards per linear foot. And as we looked at the entire bluff length at the retreat of the top of Coastal Bank, it varies along this entire shoreline. We get down to about lot um, I'd have to go back and just check the notes, but I think it's about lot 71. After that, there's no further retreat of the top of the coastal bank. We just get some toe of bank retreat. And when we look at that, we extend, we take a look at that rate of contribution for this reach of the shoreline. And if we extend that for this entire reach, it calculates out to be 1.7 cubic yards per linear foot. The prior orders of conditions that were written, as I mentioned them, I think it was 1602 and 1659. When we look at that had total cubic yards for the entire length of the project, and that correlated to 2.3 cubic yards per linear foot. So the calculation for this current project would be 1.7. The historic contribution rate that was required under those old orders was 2.3. So we've provided the 2.3, which exceeds what we calculate now, but it is consistent with what was required for the past 20 years. And
thank you.
Yeah, and the fact is that during storms, the bluff itself does contribute. You know, there is erosion landward of these coir terraces, as well as the sand that comes out of the coir terraces.
Tim?
Yes, if I may, I wanted to follow up on some comments that Meredith made earlier with a question. Were you saying that the SBPF will make all the decisions on they'll make all the reports and they'll make all the decisions on repairs and maintenance and so forth, as opposed to individual property owners making decisions on when those repairs should be made and so on? So it's just completely coordinated by SBPF?
I would say, yes, it's completely coordinated by SBPF, with one caveat. We will make sure that the order of conditions is complied with. So we will make sure that maintenance as required by the order of conditions are complied with. If it is a question of whether somebody wants to do 2 rows versus 4 rows versus the max rows, that would be up to the individual homeowner under this permit. Does that answer your question?
I think so. I mean, what I'm getting at is an improvement on coordination and communication and all of that would be a great thing. So if that's going to be a result of this, I think that's a positive. Thank you.
Yes, that would be the result. Thank you.
So further comments from commissioners? So I share Seth and Mark's concerns about the CES under our local regulations, and so would like to proceed accordingly. And also, Dwight, I share Mark's puzzlement about the amounts of sand, because in the application for the extension of the geotubes, you referenced specifically a storm where 30 feet was lost, and even allowing for a 54-foot average on the bluff, which is probably an underestimate, that's 60 yards, cubic yards per linear foot in terms of sand that went into the littoral system. And I would like, Will, I would like you to share 2 videos that I took this morning around high tide within an hour or so at 8:45. One from Meredith's property at 71. Looking north at the choir array at 79, and the other video taken from the SBPF information platform, which looks south. So this is the first one with 79 in the background. Thank you. Can you run that? And these are the choir rolls in front of Meredith's property, looking south. Thank you. And then the other one is, yeah. Here are the south end of the geotubes. And severe undercutting at the information platform, which I assume is going to slough. And then looking, you can see in the background there, 79, the remains of the choir there. So I put it to you that the figures that you include in your supplementary letter are really a gross underestimate of what is needed and what is not going into the littoral system during storm events. So, yes, Seth. Unless Will, do you have your hand up for something before I recognize Seth and Mike?
I have two public comments just to read into the record, but if you want to keep rolling with commissioners, that's totally up to you.
Yes, no, absolutely. Before members of the public, I want all commissioners to have their say. Seth?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if I'm understanding the discussion correctly, the individual installations at homeowners' properties are going to be based on basically whatever they want to do, not necessarily science-based. Is that correct? And if so, wouldn't that cause some issues? Like, let's say theoretically, homeowners decide on one property to do more or less or none at all. Isn't that going to exacerbate erosion issues on the neighboring properties? Isn't that what we're trying to prevent? Thank you.
You, Chair, can I respond to that?
Absolutely, Meredith.
So that is obviously the reason why we have the other application before you. I think you point out an amazing and a very accurate point. The resolution for obviously trying to resolve that is to have the singular project that we have applied for separately. All we're trying to do here tonight is maintain a status quo of a permit that's been in existence for 24 years. It's a long time, and it's a long time period of protection that these homeowners have had. And thank you, Chairman Golding, for giving that video. I think it does show that, one, thank you for the update so I know what's happening at my house. And, obviously it's been scary as we've been watching the weather and the storms. But it does show that, the waves, being a layperson, do come up and over these small, car terraces, and they do pull in, I think, as our expert and our consultant, Dr. Dunk identified, sand from above those projects and above the littoral system. So I think that actually kind of helped identify some of the issues that we've talked about tonight. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to discuss the CES portion a little bit, just speaking only for myself, and I respect what everybody else has to say about them. But I don't know what else people can do in this area to protect their properties. So, by not using the choir. So I'm comfortable at the moment with it, the definition of not a robust engineering structure, and that sand can pass through it. So I just wanted to, for the applicant's benefit, just make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Seth?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just in reference to Mike's comment, I'm not necessarily saying that we shouldn't permit this if it does meet this definition of CES. I'm just saying that we need to do our regulatory review to ensure that we're permitting things correctly based on our regulations, and that if it is considered a coastal engineering structure, the applicant is providing the justification for why that would be required. Also, I know this is the part of the permitting process that's probably frustrating for the public or for applicants, but we're not here to review the other project that's before the commission related to the geotubes. We're here to review this current project, and we need to ensure that the project that's before us is meeting the performance standards and not causing unintended impacts, even if at some point in the future there's a different alternative that gets put into place that renders this project moot. it does not matter. We still have to make sure that we're doing our due diligence on this project, because we can't predict what future alternatives may or may not be permitted. So thank you.
Thank you, Seth. Linda?
For the purposes of putting my position on here, I agree with Mike.
Thank you, Linda. Will, do you still have your hand up? Oh,
Just for public comments, Ian.
yeah. Okay. Thank you for the reminder, Will. So, are there any further observations from commissioners? Meredith, with respect, I would say that the videos also show that that the choir rolls don't collapse immediately, and when they do collapse, they put far less into the littoral system than what would have come out of the cliff if the bank had been unprotected. So, and Dwight, I believe that you're going to deny that, and you and I have had this conversation for how many years now?
Well, if I just may say,
please do.
We have looked at the math, we have looked at the retreat, and it would average out to 1.7, and we've proposed the 2.3 to maintain the status quo over the projects that have been in place for about 20 years, so that we can have, so these owners can have a current order of conditions that allows the maintenance that has been ongoing for 20 years to continue, and have it continue with the correct administrative procedures in place and the correct permit in place. You know, I think we've all understood that there's been some challenges out here, and in talking with Mr. Carlson, we've in terms of after the winter storms, whether it could be done by amending the older orders, or what it was felt that doing the emergency certification with the follow-up NOI, so that this could be quote unquote cleaned up administratively and permitting wise, was the pragmatic approach here. So that's what, you know, what we embarked on after those storms.
Thank you, Dwight. So if there are no further comments from commissioners, then I'd like to recognize members of the public. And let me see, Deanne, I see you're present. Do you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
First, I'd like to thank Will for helping me through the chat on YouTube and transitioning to Zoom as a panelist. I have to confess, I'm speaking on behalf of the Nantucket Coastal Conservancy, and I believe our president, Burton Balkind, is also attending either by Zoom or YouTube. I have to confess that we overlooked this. We didn't realize that an NOI had been posted, so we have not had a chance to review it. But one question we would have, has the property owner signed off on the notice of intent?
Meredith or Dwight? Would you care to reply?
Yes, we've had signatures, correct, Dwight?
I believe so, Meredith, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, can I follow up? That
Oh,
means
cool.
there's a signature from an official of the town on the notice of intent giving permission for this to be filed.
Yes, I'm saying, yes, I don't know. So yes, interrogatively to either Meredith or Dwight.
By the property owners, the individual property owners, not the town.
Okay, thank you, Dwight. for that clarification.
Mr. Chairman, may I follow up, please?
Please do.
As we understand, the property owner is the town of Nantucket. This project is to be installed and is installed on property owned by the people of Nantucket. And in order for this NOI to be heard, there should be the assent of the property owner and a duly certified signature on the notice of intent. So my understanding from your response is that signature is not there and that permission has not been given. And if that's the case, then the NOI is not in order.
Okay. Point taken. Please continue.
Thank you. Then my second point is there a valid license for the permission to use this property? As we understand, the license issued for these choir installations was renewed actually back in 2008, and it had an expiration date of 2010. And as far as we know, the license from the town to use town property for these projects expired 14 years ago.
If there's no comment from Dr. Dunk or Ms. Moldenhauer, please continue.
And then I just have one more comment, Mr. Chairman. And again, I apologize for not having reviewed the NOI, but are there as-built drawings in the NOI of what has been installed?
Yes, Dwight.
Yes, Mr. Chair. No, there are not as-built drawings in the notice of intent. The emergency order, the emergency certification required the notice of intent to be installed within 21 days of completion. And the emergency certification period is for a period of 30 days. So the notice of intent was submitted before the emergency period was ended.
Thank you, Dwight. So, Deanne, do you have anything further to add?
Just my final follow-up, Mr. Chair, is can we expect schematic drawings for whatever has been installed?
I'm sure that the commission will ask for them.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And before I go on to any further members of the public, Seth, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just hoping the applicants can provide us some more clarity in relation to Deanne's comment. So I am aware that the town of Nantucket owns the lot on Sconset Bluff and Beach, but I'm also aware that individual homeowners at this location own some of that too. So is the installation going to be on any of the town land, or is it going to be solely restricted to the private properties? Thank you.
I assume it's a combination of both, but Dwight?
Chair, we will look into that. It was my understanding that these installations are all on the private property, but we will double check.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Seth.
Thank you for doing that. And I don't know if we have to theorize at this point, but I would say that if they end up extending past the private properties, we probably should have a further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth. Any further questions from members of the public? Is Burton Balkind on the call, or Deanne, were you speaking on his behalf? And well,
No, Mr. Chairman, our president speaks for himself.
and is he on this? Is he on this call, on this Zoom call?
I know he entered public comments in the chat. Maybe I could defer to Will. Will, has he been able to come on to Zoom?
Yes, Will.
No, I'll happily read the comments from the YouTube chat, but just as a reminder for the future, use the Zoom webinar registration link. But
that was my mistake then. Sorry.
Bert, all good. Burton Balkine, for the record, asked, I'm just going to read the two questions. How many times will the applicant be allowed to repair and or replace the array? And I would also ask how the sand dumped over the bluff is being calculated to go to the quar installation and the geotubes. Never got an answer to how the sand that was removed from the template was calculated by the contractor on site.
Thank you. They seem valid questions. So, Dwight, would you like to continue?
Sure. We had provided in letter to the commission, oh goodness, now it's probably a year or two ago, that provided an update that was before any of the work that the prior contractor did this past fall that led to that enforcement order. That when the sand is dumped over at the sand ramp, X number of cubic yards that are delivered for Coyer Terrace work is I don't want to say calculated, it's noted. And then the X number of cubic yards for the Coyer Terraces is noted, and that or what we'll use Y, so that only the up to X cubic yards can be used for the Coyer Terraces, and the Y cubic yards go to the geotubes. So, you know, there's no other way to account for that than is to keep a register and a record of how much is delivered for which project, and then how much is taken from the sand ramp for each project. And that's how it's calculated. I do not know of any calculation that was conducted by the, I shouldn't say, I have to go back and check our records to see if there was a cubic yards of sand that was gathered by the prior contractor from north of the sand ramp, which you know, potentially went over the geotubes.
All right. So, Seth, do you wish us to ask for a legal opinion from town council as to whether or not these would be considered coastal engineering structures under our local bylaws?
With respect, I think the commissioners have the regulations as posted, and it's up to them to determine how those regulations read and are applied. If you wish to seek a legal opinion, that's fine, but I don't know if we necessarily need legal opinions to apply our own regulations as written. So thank you.
Fair enough. Well, yes, Dwight?
Yes, Mr. Chair. We do have to continue because we don't have a letter from the National Heritage. So, you know, but I would request if the commission could vote on the CES so we can know what to provide for the next hearing, if there's anything else that's needed, in addition to what we received for comments from the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program.
You mean that you would plan on ignoring all the questions posed to you by Deanne Atherton and commissioners?
No.
Okay.
We're continuing anyways, but There's the question about the CES, and we're going to respond to the comments that were raised tonight, but we have just administratively, procedurally, it cannot be closed because we don't have natural heritage comments, correct?
Right.
So, but with that, I would request that the commission vote on the CES issue so that we can have that in order to address that at the next hearing.
Well, commissioners, as opposed to seeking a legal opinion from town council, the Commissioner Engelberg feels that it's a CES. I agree with him. I believe Mark agrees with him. So if we want to put this to a vote, I'm not sure how we go about it. Seth, do you want to make a motion? Although I see Mike's hand has come up before yours did, Seth. So Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if a vote is particularly necessary, or mood of the board, temperature of the board, on what that topic is. Then it doesn't tie everybody up tonight. If that's acceptable to Dwight and Meredith or to the commission, just a suggestion.
The temperature of the commission would be fine without a vote. No.
All right. So on the side, it's an interesting analogy as we turn from spring to summer, the temperature of the commission. So
If I may, Mr. Chair.
yes, by all means.
Yeah, I would just say an official vote probably isn't warranted or the correct procedure here. I would say if multiple members of the commission have already expressed their beliefs that this could be considered a CES, then it's the burden of proof is on the applicant to either show that that's true or not true. So if we want to have kind of like the temperature of the commission, that's fine. But, again, it's sort of on them to do their due diligence here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Joe?
Shouldn't we be waiting for our independent attorney to show up?
Not on this one.
That's on the geotubes rather than on the choir rolls. So that's a separate subject. So it's quite the pattern that is being woven here, one way and another. And Linda, I see your hand up.
I agree with Mike. I don't think and I agree with Seth, I don't think a vote is appropriate at this time.
Fair enough. So that I feel that the temperature is such that the applicant should pursue the subject of why they feel this is not a CES. So on that note, Dwight, to continue until the 25th?
Yes, we assent to a continuance to the 25th, Chair.
All right, thank you. And thank you, Meredith. And I'm glad that the video you saw this morning has reassured you that your property is not falling into the ocean just yet. And you're muted, I believe.
I was waiting for you to acknowledge me. I didn't want to speak out of turn.
I apologize for not acknowledging you.
I guess a question, if we're continuing to the 25th, I know that we had only 30 days to do the emergency maintenance. And I know that as Dwight identified, not everything was able to be done. There was a lot of weather conditions you just showed, existing more weather conditions. Is there a way in which the commission could vote or permit maintenance or additional repairs, obviously given the storm and the fact that we want to have authority and appropriate authority from this commission to do what is necessary? Right now, we wouldn't be allowed to do that. And I wouldn't want conditions to get, unruly or kind of in a negative situation between now and the 25th, videos to pop up and then us not to have the authority to do anything. So I don't know if that's a long question and I don't know what the process would be. I'm putting that back on you guys.
Mr. Chairman, are we able to do that in this process?
I would hope so. But
Would you want a
I can
motion
see-
to allow it?
Will has his hand up. And are
I
these words of wisdom, or are you also wondering?
it could be mild words of confusion through you, Chair Golding, but I would almost think that it would have to be another emergency cert, but I'm not 100% on that, and I'd like to confirm with Jeff, but that doesn't help us tonight.
They wanted to do the work between now and the next meeting, I assume, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sure they do, because the devastation is quite extensive, and I'm
Yeah.
sure that as the wind dies down and the water level drops, you'll see how much damage has been done. So Seth?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I certainly hear Ms. Moldenhauer's points. I don't think we're able to provide that authority given the nature of the emergency certification. I think that the emergency certification requires the applicant to do the minimum impact or minimum installation possible to abate the emergency within 30 days. And that once that 30 days is over, that notice of intent has to be submitted to basically deal with the rest of the issue. So I know it's probably not what the homeowners there are hoping for, but the minimum maintenance and storm damage prevention has been done. That was done under the emergency certification to abate that emergency. So I think we are required to wait until the notice of intent is permitted before additional work. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Seth. So you have a chair who doesn't have a clue, which is slightly embarrassing. And yes, Dwight?
Yes, Mr. Chair, as Mr. Delurba identified, that emergency cert, which was issued in February 23 and concluded on March 23, or maybe March 24 because of the only 29 days in February. With this current storm, maybe what could be done is to take a look at the condition of the shoreline on these properties and request another emergency certification come Monday. Well, today's Thursday, so Friday, Monday, Tuesday, for the properties that may need some additional repair or maintenance that was caused by this most recent storm. And then that way, that would be a proper authorization to get out there and do that. As I mentioned, there is debris that's out there that was not collected because it was not collected as of March 24, and would allow for some of that debris that was not able to be collected during that 30-day period to also be collected.
Okay, so we're meeting in a week for continuing a hearing on the geotube expansion. So why don't we add that to next Thursday's meeting to, if necessary, grant you an extension on the emergency certification. Does that meet with the legal thumbs up, Meredith? Okay, thumbs up from Mark anyway. So, all right, good. Okay, see you next Thursday.
Great. Thank you.
You're
That
welcome.
almost makes sense, Ian.
There we go.
Thank you all for your time tonight. Thank you.
You're welcome. Gather ye wits while ye may, right? So that brings us on to amended, no, it doesn't, sorry, picked up the wrong sheet of paper. That brings us on to amended orders of conditions, Rabbit Run Road, LLC, 26 Rabbit Run Road. Brian Madden.
Excuse me. Thank you very much. Brian Madden from LEC Environmental Consultants representing the applicants. This is an order of conditions that was issued in October 2022 for some renovations and expansions to the existing single-family home on the property. Just to quickly run through the updates, the 685 square foot addition on the east side of the dwelling that was overlapping with the lawn and driveway has been reduced in size slightly to 568. A portion of the interior is being modified for a garage space. The approved cantilevered balcony on the north side of the addition has been eliminated, and the adjacent roof overhang has been adjusted, so it's been pulled in. In lieu of the addition expansion that was previously approved that wrapped around the front part of the building, the applicant is proposing to expand the front porch by 1 foot, just so it aligns and evens out with the front facade of the dwelling. There's also a bulkhead being proposed, grill pad, retention of a second-story cantilevered deck, and some other minor landscaping updates. We have proposed to slightly expand the revegetation areas here that now total 2,186 square feet. So the project updates align with the previously issued orders and the granted waivers for long-term net benefit. And I'll turn over to questions.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions from commissioners? Members of the public? A motion to approve this amended order? Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Tim. By roll call vote, Mark Beal,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg,
Aye.
Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Joe Pandowski,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Ian Golding, aye. So that brings us on no request for determination of applicability. So for minor modifications, the Eloise Nominee Trust, 1 and 5 Sandy Drive. Brian?
Thank you. Brian Madden from LEC representing the applicant. Proposed updates are minor reconfiguration, footprint changes to the garage and associated driveway parking area, all outside the 50-foot buffer zone to the isolated wetland to the south. And that's it.
Okay. Any observations, comments, questions? Seeing none, a motion to approve this minor modification. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Mark. By roll call vote, Mark Beal,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg,
Aye.
Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Joe Pandowski,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Ian Golding, aye. The other minor modification is 2020 Flax Family Irrevocable Trust, 12 Moores End Lane.
Brian Madden from LEC. Pretty simple update here too. This was a project that was just recently approved with the commission. The pool location was pushed 5 feet closer to the house to confirm that the regrading is outside the 50-foot buffer zone. And that's the extent of the updates.
Thank you. And motion to approve. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Mike. By roll call vote, Mark Beal,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg,
Aye.
Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Joe Pandowski,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Ian Golding, aye. So that brings us on to certificates of compliance. And there are three for Shawcoma LLC, 36 Shawcoma Road. Do you want to handle those all at once, Brian?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll go through them one by one, but we basically just have an as-built per property, and apologies to dump these all together, but I'm just cleaning house, so I'll go through them one by one. And to start with, what's first on the agenda? 36. So there's three orders on this property, and I'll start back at the beginning. Okay, so the first order is numbered 48-3014. This was for an addition and construction of a patio roof, pergola, and associated grading landscaping. This was on the east side of the main dwelling. It's not isolated on this as-built, but it's where those measurements are 42 and 65 feet. Generally in that vicinity. Everything is substantially in compliance with what was approved. I did try in these certs, try to call out all the ongoing conditions. And so on this one, it's number 19 relative to exterior lighting. The next order is 48-3032. This was an order issued in November 29th, 2017. This is for a larger redevelopment of the site, including relocation of a pool, relocation of some structures, hardscaping, retaining walls, tennis court, grading, landscaping within the buffer zones to Coastal Bank and BBW. There was an amended order for a proposed cart path and greenhouse. The greenhouse ultimately got constructed outside the 100-foot buffer zone. It was initially within the outer 100-foot, but was relocated. This one had some proposed revegetation areas that have been monitored for greater than 3 years. They were installed in 2019, and all the vegetation, as evidenced in the photographs, is coming in quite nicely and robust. There's ongoing conditions for this one for pool maintenance, so 20, 21, and 22. And then 23 is relative to exterior lighting. And the last order on this property is 48-3344 for an order of conditions issued on October 16th, 2020. This is for renovation of what we called the boathouse. It was an existing structure within the northerly portion of the site. For some additions onto that structure and associated work. And so no ongoing conditions were part of this project, relatively straightforward. And so as demonstrated in the photographs I submitted and on the as-built, everything has been completed in substantial compliance. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions? Will, have you been out there?
Yes, absolutely. And I think, I don't know what happened. We may have taken those one out of order, but I have the condition numbers and everything. The first one was supposed to be for the boathouse on the agenda, so it was just flipped. But so the first one I recommended closing, no continuing conditions. The second one, which was 3014, had the exterior lighting condition number 19. All exterior lighting is to be directed away from resource areas. And then the third 36 Giacomo, which was 3032, has 4 continuing conditions. 20, pool should not be chemically treated between November 1st and May 1st. Shall, not should, sorry. 21, all chemical treatments shall stop 3 weeks prior to any draining or discharge of the pool. 22, the pool shall not be drained to an area within Concom jurisdiction. 23, all exterior lighting shall be pointed away from the resource area again. But recommend issuing with those ongoing conditions.
Thank you. A motion to approve with those ongoing conditions. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Joe. By roll call vote, Mark Beal.
Aye.
Tim Brain.
Aye.
Seth Engelborg. Seth?
Aye.
Thank you, sir. Mike Mazzarelli.
Aye.
Joe Pandowski.
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Aye.
Ian Golding, aye. And that brings us on to certificates of compliance for Cedar Viewpoint LLC, 40 Falcon Mill Road. SE 483316 and SE 483376. Brian?
Thank you. So I'll do these in order. So 483316 was issued in August 7th, 2020. That was for a septic upgrade outside the 100-foot buffer zone and some driveway improvements that were within the outer 100-foot buffer zone. That's within the southerly portion of the site. All completed in substantial compliance, no ongoing conditions there. The next one is 483376. This was issued in February 2021. This was on the main dwelling area within the northern portion of the site. It included the removal of existing deck, installation of fencing around the pool, some hardscaping, vegetation, removal of some retaining walls and associated grading landscaping. All of that work was completed in substantial compliance and also no ongoing conditions as part of this project. I'll turn over to questions.
Will?
Can confirm, recommend issuing. Both have no ongoing conditions associated.
Cool.
After inspecting the wrong property first.
Don't worry, back in the day, I inspected the wrong property for a rental and signed a rental agreement. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. A motion to approve. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Mike. By roll call vote, Mark Beal.
Aye.
Tim Brain.
Aye.
Seth Engelborg.
Aye.
Mike Mazzarelli. Mike?
Still on mute.
I think he's trying.
Okay, thumbs up from Mike. Joe Pandowski.
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Aye.
Ian Golding, aye. So this brings us on to orders of conditions. And Will, you want to bring them up on the screen?
Yep.
Okay. So we have
incoming.
The first one is Lampoon Nominee Trust, 6 Westcote Place. And I see that Attorney Woods is on my screen. Glenn, do you have a comment in light of the letter that you sent us?
The OOC as drafted is fine with us, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
So. So we have and everybody has seen the updated plan. I know we discussed that last meeting, but I just want to make sure everybody's seen that, right, with the gate referenced. Okay. So this order permits the relocation of an existing barn and the construction of a gravel and cobble 2-track and a 12-foot utility and public access easement with associated grading, landscaping, and utilities within buffer zones to a vegetated wetland. Waivers are required for this project. So we have our conditions 18, 19, in accordance with the site and work description, and our fill condition. And we have all exterior lighting shall be directed away from the resource areas and in compliance with chapter 102 of the code of the town of Nantucket. And then condition 21, the vehicle access way shall terminate at the property line in a gate or at a gate. At a gate with an opening for pedestrian access. If public parking is later approved on the adjacent property, this barrier may be removed. A site plan will be submitted to staff for approval.
Okay, commissioners, can you stop sharing your screen for a moment, Will, so I can see everybody? Or is that inconvenient for you? Thank you.
No problem.
So, yes, Mark.
I don't like number 21, but I guess we gotta live with it. I mean, it's sort of saying if we allow parking, we'll move the gate. I guess that's what you gotta say. I'm sorry we're saying it.
Well,
I think we gotta do it. I just think it's they keep saying they don't need handicap, they don't need anything. And I guess we can't say no vehicles. It's not our job. Anyway, sorry I spoke up. I retract my comments.
Well, put it this way, I didn't seek a legal opinion. So as a non-lawyer,
I retract everything I said.
Okay. I couldn't hear you anyway. I'm going deaf. So Seth.
Thank you. I think it's fine. I mean, it says may be removed, not shall be removed. So it's clear that the permitting decision here doesn't compel the commission to act in any specific way for a future NOI that may or may not be submitted. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So then a motion to approve is drafted. Joe, seconded by Tim by roll call vote. Mark Beal.
Aye.
Tim Brain.
Aye.
Seth Engelborg.
Aye.
Mike Mazzarelli.
Aye.
Joe Pandowski.
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Aye.
Ian Golding, aye. Have a good night, Glenn.
Thank you for your time on this. We really appreciate it. It's good to get this over with. Right?
Yes.
This one's been on for a while. That's
All right, that brings us on to so 5 Dingy Lane, Manila. So I believe commissioners wanted to add provisions for if they run into trouble with water in the foundation, right?
yes.
And is that your hand up for that?
Yeah, my thing was no dewatering into the wetland or rain garden. But I think probably the easiest thing to do is say no dewatering into anything that the Concom has jurisdiction over. So however you want to phrase that.
But not that I argue that, but it says if number 26 already says if dewatering comes necessary during the project, the applicant must apply for an amended order or condition. So they're going to come in anyways, right?
Yeah, but I want it clear that they can't dewater into that
Okay, fine by me. I would expect them to
wetlands
be.
or
I would
buffer
expect
zone or
them to be
anything we have
coming in if it-
jurisdiction over.
if it
Well,
comes.
If I may say so, I think 26 covers it, and I was looking at what Will posted, and so I didn't see 26. I mean, it's quite clear that if dewatering becomes necessary during the project, then the applicant must apply for an amended order of conditions. So, period.
I think what mine does, Mr. Chairman, is period, not just during construction.
If I may,
Yes, Seth.
not to speak for Linda, but I think she actually means no draining rather than dewatering. That's a little bit different. You know,
Okay.
she's indicating that no water should be drained or discharged into that wetland, no matter what, whether dewatering is required or not. So,
Yeah, that's where I'm headed.
No, I understand, but since they have to come before us to dewater, then wouldn't that be the correct time to put that provision in there? But I defer to my fellow commissioners on that one.
I think Seth is saving the day there with
Okay.
his
Fair
peacemaker.
enough.
So no
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 water should be
draining.
drained or discharged into the wetland.
There we go.
And we do have that condition for the pool as well. And condition 26, I just added during the meeting, so it wasn't on the draft I sent.
Isn't that no water may be drained? Are you English majors?
No,
No, it's rather.
I was just
It's shall.
true.
Shall
I
is more
used
binding
shall
than
as
may.
the
Yeah, it's
shall
shall.
is the
Yeah.
iron fist.
Yeah, legally shall is more binding than may,
Yeah.
having done a billion ZBA decisions.
All right, add come hell or high water from Linda.
Yes, or any water.
Okay.
I
All right.
also
Any other provisions?
this also I changed the waiver. I think I had submitted this draft with no waiver because I noticed that it was a long-term net benefit waiver. So I waited to hear something about that during the meeting, so the waiver's new.
Right, well, RJ made the point that,
Yes,
yes,
and I very much agree.
okay. So, commissioners, without further ado, and without hurrying things along, a motion to approve is amended.
So moved.
Thank you, Mark. Seconded by Joe. Thank you, Joe. By roll call vote, Mark Beal,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg,
Aye.
Mike Mazzarelli. Mike Mazzarelli, thumbs up. Okay.
Aye. Okay, sorry. Technical difficulties here.
Joe Plantasci,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Ian Golding, aye. So that brings us on to Slows at Tuckernuck Island. And
I don't
Sorry,
think there was
there's a
anything on this one at all.
last minute edit. So I just had the additional finding that a portion of the house to remain on cribbing pending MESA Botanical Survey summer 2024. But other than that are 18 and 19.
okay,
Also moved.
thank you, Mark. Seconded
Second.
by Mike. So by roll call vote, Mark Beal,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg,
Aye.
Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Joe Pandowski,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Ian Golden, aye. And that brings us on to Montana 49 Nominee Trust, 49 Walwinet Road.
Solar panels.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so we did just have the note about the botanical survey that's been completed. And we had 18 and 19 for our conditions, unless there's anything else.
Sure. Bayberry's donated to charity. Okay, just kidding.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mike. Seconded by Joe. Thank you, Joe. By roll call vote, Mark Beal,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg.
Aye, and making bayberry candles is a lot of effort.
Smell good, though.
It smells good, but it's hard.
Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Joe Pandowski,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Ian Golding, aye. So that's why they employ chemists at certain candle companies. Is that what you're telling us?
We
You
just
can make
demolished his
anything,
house.
you can make anything smell like anything these days.
Didn't we just demolish his house, Mr. Yankee Candle?
There we go. Yeah. So that brings us on to Burnham and Bottrick, 26 Warren's Landing Road with Linda recused.
All right, more solar panels. Harnessing the energy of the sun. Permits the installation of solar panels. No NHESP, no waivers. We had conditions 18 and 19. Similar deal.
And so I noticed that Brian has his hand up. Brian?
Thank you. I think on that one, it's also within land subject to coastal storm flowage. I just wanted to note that.
Thank you, Brian.
No problem.
Busy guy tonight, Brian.
Let me put this on the screen for proof. All right.
Okay. So, yes, Brian, or are you?
No,
happy to-
thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yeah,
You're welcome.
I'll
Thank you for
lower
your
my hand.
input. So a motion to approve is amended. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Joe. By roll call vote, Mark Beal,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg,
Aye.
Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Joe Pandowski,
Aye.
Ian Golding, aye, with Linda Williams recused. And that brings us on to 72 Pocomo Realty Trust, 72 Pocomo Road.
All right. This order permits the construction of a new dwelling, secondary structures, pool, and patio with associated landscaping and grading within buffer zone to coastal bank and bordering vegetated wetlands. Waivers are required. Conditions 18 and 19. 20 are exterior lighting condition. 21, all refueling shall take place greater than 50 feet. 22, all restoration plantings are to be native species with no cultivars. The pool shall not be drained or discharged into an area within the commission's jurisdiction. 24, the pool shall not be chemically treated between November 1st and May 1st. 25, all chemical treatments shall stop 3 weeks prior to any draining or discharging of the pool. 26, the applicant shall provide the contact information for the company maintaining the pool. The pool company shall provide 48-hour notice. 27, given the topography of the site, any pool draining that needs to take place shall be pumped by truck and disposed of properly at the sewer treatment facility or be in compliance with Chapter 361 of the Code of the Town of Nantucket. And then our waiver request and waiver granted for the revegetation of lawn area for long-term net benefit. That is all.
I think it's technically a wastewater treatment facility, not a sewage treatment facility, but
Oof, you're dead right.
that's just me.
You're not wrong about that.
Well, I don't personally think of my sewage as being wastewater, but that's just me. So, all right, on that note, motion to approve as intended. Okay,
I
thank
like
you.
that.
Thank you, Mike. By roll call votes, Mark Beal,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg,
Aye.
Mike Miserelli,
Aye.
Joe Pandowski,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Ian Golding, aye. That brings us on to Nantucket Islands Land Bank, 84 Union Street.
All right, so this was for invasive ailanthus. Just a quick side note, I may have mistakenly misled people. It's not in the sumac family. That's just a common name for it. It's in a different family that I can't pronounce.
It looks like sumac, so.
But it sure does. But it's the tree of hell. This order permits the removal and treatment with triclopyr of invasive ailanthus within a bordering vegetated wetland. Waivers are required. Conditions 18 and 19, and then 20 and 21. Materials resulting from the removal of ailanthus shall be appropriately disposed of off property. 21, the quantity and specific type of herbicide used will be reported in writing to the commission on an annual basis. Any herbicide shall be applied by a licensed applicator. And then I do see Seth's hand. through
Yes,
each
sir.
of them.
Yes, thank you. I have a concern about the waiver that we've listed on the order, not because I think that it's wrong. I do think it will be a long-term net benefit, but because we have a specific waiver that is meant to serve invasive plant management. And I don't know what chapter it's in now, but it was in like chapter 5 of the regulations before.
I
they
can
were
get it. I don't know how I
notified.
messed that up.
Yeah.
But searching now.
So you want to make a motion to approve as will be corrected so that we can continue?
If Seth's okay with that.
You okay with that, Seth?
Yeah, as long as other commissioners are comfortable with that being put on the screen, it's fine by me.
Motion approved by Mark and seconded by Joe. So by roll call vote, Mark Beal,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg,
Aye.
Mike Miserelli,
Aye.
Joe Pandowski,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Ian Golding, aye. So that brings us on to McDonough Curland, 334 Matticat Road. And that is the last one we have. So
That's right.
Well, this is the Hail Mary.
Yeah. And how long will it last, Mike?
good question.
Year or two. A lot of money to spend.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking it, but Ian got it out there.
He said it. So this is for 334 Matticat Road. This order permits the relocation of structures away from an eroding bank and revegetation of disturbed areas with associated landscaping and grading. No NHESP waivers are required. Conditions 18 and 19, and then we had condition 20, all exterior lighting shall be directed away from the resource area and in compliance with chapter 102. And 21, all restoration plantings are to be native species with no cultivars. And then we had our waivers are required. 239010B7, due to structures being relocated within 100 feet of an eroding coastal bank, the commission finds that the constraints of the lot provide the applicant with no reasonable alternative to relocate the structures further from the bank, and no additional adverse impacts will result from the project as proposed.
Okay,
Anything in addition here?
no, I would say a motion to approve as drafted is what is needed. So, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Tim. By roll call vote, Mark Beal,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg,
Aye.
Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Joe Pandowski,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Ian Golden, aye. That brings us on to extensions of orders, of which there are none. And then for other business, no minutes to approve. Monitoring reports. Will, any monitoring reports?
I have no monitoring reports.
Okay.
Yay.
So that brings us on to discussion of Concom land transfer warrant articles and open space management. This is a cue for you, Seth.
And I'm happy to share anything at your request.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Will. And I'm glad that everything got into the packet. It was posted appropriately this time. So for a bit of background, for those commissioners who may not have been involved in this in the past. So the Conservation Commission, apart from our wetland regulatory function, has a general role in open space acquisition, management, and education. And we have the ability by the Conservation Commission Act, which hopefully everyone read, to, fund those activities and as needed to transfer those lands to more appropriate entities. In other municipalities across the state, conservation commissions play a huge role in this realm. In Nantucket, historically, or at least in recent history, the Conservation Commission has played a limited role in this realm, but it doesn't mean that we necessarily should. Part of the reason for that is because other entities that don't exist in other communities, like the land bank, and the vast amount of environmental conservation nonprofits that exist here, have sort of taken over a lot of this role. But it came to our attention in the update of the open space and recreation plan, which is something that the Conservation Commission is actually supposed to do, but on Nantucket has been a function of the NP and EDC instead, that the Conservation Commission, Nantucket Conservation Commission, owned 6 parcels. Will, myself, and the town assessor, Rob Rainey, were able to track down 3 of these parcels. Those 3 parcels are the parcels that are in the packet. Will, can you put up those parcels with the maps? It's
Yeah.
the first submission that I made.
Let me make this more larger.
Mr. Chairman, through you, a question is, Seth, does the Conservation Commission actually hold title to these or just stewardship under the town of Nantucket?
We are listed on all of these as a co-owner. I have not actually gone to the registry and done a title search, so I'm unaware, but I know for this one at least, 35 Grove Lane, which is the first one, it was actually given specifically to the Nantucket Conservation Commission. We have
Okay.
records from members of the public and testimony to track that down. The other, I'm not sure about. The town of Nantucket is listed as a co-owner on all these parcels. Whether the ownership has changed or morphed over time is unclear to me, and we can get some clarity on that. But it's my assumption that both the town of Nantucket and the Nantucket Conservation Commission are on the title of these parcels. Which is going to be a point that I bring up later, because the warrant articles that we have to discuss indicate that the Conservation Commission is just the manager of these properties, and I'm not sure if that's actually a true statement. But anyways, before we get there, 35 Grove Lane, it's a 10.8 acres. No bottom pond, if you all have heard of that. And this is one of the areas that is listed on the 2024 Nantucket Annual Town Meeting warrant to be potentially transferred to a different entity. And then if you go down, Will, there's 2 Long Pond Drive. It's 1.05 acres of undeveloped land. That's not subject of any warrant article at this town meeting, but it could be a discussion for the future about whether we want to retain this or transfer it. And then 7 Chicago Street, if you go down, is theoretically 1.30 acres, but as you can see, it's mostly in the water at this point. And actually, it's probably even more in the water at this point. That's also not subject to any potential transfer at this annual town meeting, but that does exist. Then we had a lot of trouble finding the other 3 parcels. Will, you can take down the screen for a second. And the reason for that, I finally realized, is because the other 3 parcels are in road layouts. And one of them is a portion of Ames Avenue. And that portion of Ames Avenue is subject to a potential transfer at this annual town meeting. So, Will, can you put up the other discussion with the articles 85, 90, and 98? Yes, Joe.
I have Article 85 here. It says that the land is owned by the town of Nantucket, held under the care, custody, and control of the Nantucket Conservation Commission. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. That's what's in the warrant. That may not be what's on the deed.
Yeah,
That's also, I've checked the deeds. We don't appear, I'm just looking at the registry. I'm in the registry all the time. I can't find anything that is under the title of the Conservation Commission at all. They're coming up under the town of Nantucket only.
Okay, and this is the part that I will admit that I'm not a expert on. I just know that, like, on the Nantucket GIS that exists, the Nantucket Conservation Commission is listed as co-owners on these. Maybe we can direct staff or somebody who knows better to actually do some more title documentation here. But I think the overall question is, first of all, that property, the Grove Lane property, was absolutely donated to the 35 Grove Lane, was absolutely donated to the Nantucket Conservation Commission. We have the history of that. It very well may have transferred to being property of the town of Nantucket, but it does say co-owner name Conservation Commission on the property record on the town GIS. So let's look into that. But apart from that, I think whether we're on the title or not, we do need to, if we have care, custody, and control over land, we do need to indicate our support or lack of support for the transfer of that land to a different entity. And the purpose of this discussion tonight is to decide if we support that. In my personal opinion, I highly support that. I think the Conservation Commission should dispose of all of its land holdings and transfer them to other landowners, such as the Nantucket Islands Land Bank, who have the ability to do stewardship, maintenance, and management of their property. We don't have the ability to do any of that. We don't have the staff or the equipment. No offense, Will, but it's not really your job. We don't have the staff.
I would love to if we had the people, trust me.
We don't have the staff or the equipment or really the time to do that. And given that other organizations exist that already do that, I absolutely support the transfer of those lands. But I do think that we should voice our support with a vote at this meeting or at a very soon meeting up. Probably has to be at this meeting, honestly, to back these recommendations. So thank you. You can take sorry, let me describe what the articles are. Article 85 is related to the Ames Avenue parcel, which is in the Ames Avenue road layout. That would transfer that to a different entity. And then Article 90 and 98 talk about the Grove Lane, No Bottom Pond, transferring them to a different entity. There is multiple entities called out, but in all practice, the entity that it would transfer to would be the land bank. You can take the screen down now, Will.
Seth, do we need to specify the land bank through an amendment at town meeting?
The reason why there's multiple landowners listed on the warrant article is because the warrant article discusses multiple properties, and one of them is in Sconset, and that's why Sconset Trust is listed on there. But I don't think there's any intent for the land to go to Sconset Trust in Grove Lane, so I think it's fine. And this happens quite frequently when you see land transfers. It would say like could go to Land Bank or Conservation Foundation or someone else, but it's already kind of pre-approved about who it will actually go to.
So Joe, I see your hand up and then Mike's hand up.
I support the position Seth laid out, and you can see it from the folks that show up from these organizations that take care of land. They're really concerned about it. They do a really good job. They have a lot of experience at it, and they should be doing it, not us.
Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's more of just a curiosity question. Is Conservation Foundation not interested in the land, or did they get
It's not a town entity. It's not a town entity.
Got it.
I have no idea. I have no idea how the articles were written, so that would be a question for the select board, but
it may be
that would be almost a conveyance, and that's not what they're asking for.
Please, Linda.
Yep.
Thank you.
So fishing around in the
Linda,
registry.
would you please put your hand up when you want to comment? Thank you.
There it is.
Okay. Go ahead.
The Conservation Foundation is a private nonprofit 501c3. And I believe the way these are written, it's a town entity, and you cannot convey it out of the town control, whether it's us or the town, without a whole nother series of warrant articles.
Thank you, Linda. And Seth?
I would just say I tend to agree with Linda, although these actually are written as real estate conveyances, and the Sconset Trust is listed on there. They're a 501c3 charity that's not associated with the town. So and in the past there have been real estate conveyances to the Nantucket Conservation Foundation. If I remember correctly, there was one in the Alta Rock area at last year's town meeting. So it is possible. How or why these articles were written, I am not sure. And I don't know if we have necessarily the time to go through and get that information at this point. I think what we should do at this meeting is have any discussion that we want to have. And then my goal would be for us to take a vote to support these articles and to have our staff or our chair write a letter to the select board in support of these articles. So that's how I'm hoping to proceed. Thank you.
So, yes, Mark.
I make a motion to the Nantucket Conservation Commission support Articles 85, 90, and 98.
Actually, I have a couple of questions.
Oh, sorry.
If I may interrupt you?
Of course.
Thank you. So, Seth, for the 35 Grove Lane, the 10.88 acres at No Bottom Pond, were there any provisions attached to the original gift?
Yes, there are provisions attached to the original gift. We had received a letter a couple years back by Fran Cartinen in relation to this. I did some looking into the original gift, was donated by Abbott and Francis Johnson in 1978, and it is required to remain in undeveloped state. And the reason why that could still be true if it was transferred to a different entity, say the land bank, is because that also fits with their mission of open space and recreation. So we could original intent of the transfer could be or would be retained even if we transferred it.
Well, yes, Joe.
I was going to say that particular piece of property is really odd shaped and it's located next to the cemetery. I would think that would want to be conserved because I don't think anybody would want to build houses in the way that thing is shaped.
I think we're
and its
talking
location.
About the one on Grove Lane?
The old cemetery that's up there on, yeah, there's that old one that's on both sides of the road.
And if I just may, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
If you look at Article 90, which is the real estate conveyance, and if you look at what it actually says, it says an act authorizing the Town of Nantucket Conservation Commission to convey a certain parcel of land situated in the town for purposes of conveyance to the Town of Nantucket under the care, custody, management, and control of the Select Board in the Town of Nantucket to convey certain land in the Town of Nantucket held for open space, passive recreation, or conservation. So the act would require those uses to be retained.
Thank you, because I would like us to stay true to the intent of the original donors. So thank you for that. And I won't say as an aside, we could offer it, sell it to the land bank and put the money in an independent legal fund for the Conservation Foundation going forward, independent of time. Anyway, so Mark, thank you for letting me interrupt you. And Seth, thank you very much for doing all this work. And Mark, you were making a motion?
I made my motion to have the commission support the 3 articles.
With a letter from the chairman?
What, dear?
With a letter from the chairman to them?
Sure.
Okay.
You or me?
I think Will can draft the letter and Ian can sign it.
There we go. I'll put my thumbprint to it. And seconded by Tim. So by roll call vote, Mark Beal.
Aye.
Tim Brain.
Aye.
Seth Engelborg.
Aye.
Mike Mizzarelli.
Aye.
Joe Prandowski.
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Aye.
Ian Golding. Aye.
And Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to take up too much more time because I know it's getting late tonight too, but I think we should also be proactive and schedule another hearing that would identify a similar opportunity to transfer our other land holdings to a reasonable entity. So if Will could schedule that discussion at some point, that'd be great. So we can understand what to do about the 2 Long Pond Drive, the 7th Chicago Street, and the other 2 road layouts. Thank you.
Sure.
Received.
How about May the 9th?
May
Pencil
the
it in.
9th?
What?
Works for me.
Okay.
Good.
Penciled in.
I might be in a hotel room, but I'll be able to zoom in.
You won't what?
I might be in New Hampshire, but I'll zoom in from the hotel room.
Okay, why don't you make it May the 23rd?
Okay.
All right.
May
Thank you.
23rd.
May 23rd. So that brings us on to enforcement actions, potential enforcement actions.
Sorry, I'm just writing a note also, but I have nothing new for this evening.
Okay. Reports from crack,
Nothing new.
nothing new. CPC,
Nothing new.
NP and EDC.
Nothing
The
to
less said,
report.
the better.
Nothing to report.
Harbor Plan, Linda.
We had another meeting this week and there were some members from crack there along with Leah Hill, and we're going through her notes. Now we're into the harbor part of the plan. So we're slowly slogging through, barely got off the first page of that section, which is going to deal with a lot of overlap with public access, health of the harbor, eelgrass plan, all kinds of stuff in this one section, which sort of encompasses a lot of the other sections we've slogged through already. So we're moving every 2 weeks.
Great. Joe?
Come on, Joe.
There's
Offshore
nothing to
wind work
report.
group?
There's a lot of activity in terms of windmills being put out there in the ocean, but
Yeah.
work group doesn't work.
Okay. Shall we strike it off future reports then?
At this point, it would seem likely candidate to be struck out.
Okay.
Your term technically ends in the end of June if you don't
Right.
want to do it anymore. So
That's true. So we only have a couple of months.
All right. All right. Commissioners' comments.
Good meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, everybody. So
Ian.
on that note, a motion to adjourn from
Whoa, 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 whoa,
No.
whoa,
No.
whoa.
Joe had
Staff
a
comments. Gosh.
staff comments.
I did have a
Oh my
question.
God. I was
What's
trying to
the-
avoid that. All
I
right.
have
the
no
s-
staff comment. It's
What's the status of the attorney and the consultant?
Ah. Do you
That's-
really want to know?
Ian, do you have a more recent answer to that than Will
I think-
does?
Well, I do, I guess, because the attorneys have declined to act on our behalf unless they're paid more.
That's the answer
Wow.
that I had from last week. So
Okay,
the-
yeah.
I don't know.
Wow.
That's no big surprise there.
I can
No, it isn't.
provide
You're right.
details.
I thought he made an offer for 10,000 flat rate or something.
No. So, so
Wow.
I guess my understanding is that the staff at Natural Resources are going backwards and forwards with individuals within the town administration about this this hiccup. So right now we don't have any independent legal counsel.
And how about the consultant? Any word on the consultant?
Yes, yes, Will.
We do have beta. I don't know if this is finalized, so I'm just checking really quick, but we do have beta secured, and I believe we are just waiting for the finance department approval. My email just stopped responding while I tried to search for this email, so never mind. But we do have a proposal from beta. We have accepted it on our end. But now we are waiting for the finance department, but they have like fast tracked their paperwork to get it approved. They've actually let us skip a few requirements. So that should move quickly. The lawyer, I was checking in with you, Ian, because I wasn't sure if there'd been any movement from
I
last
just
week.
spoke to
but-
Jeff this afternoon.
Yeah,
He
so
said
it's
there hasn't been.
the same position.
Yeah.
We were given a cap on the budget, and the proposal from the law firm, which was already, according to them, offered at a deep discount, was 2.25 times over our cap. So we were suggested another law firm. We've reached out to them. There's tremendous effort being made.
I'm just afraid if we charge too little that we're gonna end up with, you're gonna get what you pay for kind of thing. What kind of law firm? What's the matter, you university type thing?
I couldn't agree with you more, Linda, and I'm just astonished that the town doesn't want to pony up another 15,000, which is a rounding error on the sewer project going past my door as I speak. And yes, Seth.
Thank you. Have we gone back to the town to request the additional expenditure, or is that not in process yet?
Yes,
Through
go
you,
ahead,
Eden.
Will.
I believe Jeff has, but I don't know for certain.
That's what Jeff told me.
Okay.
He clearly hasn't had a reply in the affirmative for him to hire the law firm. So, Mark.
Oh, Beta has started, by the way. I'm sorry, I just interrupted, but I misspoke. Beta is fully under contract, and that's going.
Great. Mark?
Yeah, thank you, Ian. We were advised, I don't know, a year ago or more during our lawsuit that when this was being proposed to come forward, that the commission, if the town is not cooperative, can take the nuclear option of just saying, well, we can't hear the NOI. It's denied for lack of counsel.
We can't do that. I don't believe that's a reason for us to deny something. It has to be on the merits.
The merits are we have unanswered questions.
That's not going to fly in court.
Well, let's keep our suppositions muted at this point. I mean, what we really need is a competent law firm to answer our questions. And yes, Seth. So I don't see that discussing this much further is going to get us much farther. I mean,
yeah, I think we should refrain a bit. I would just say generally that notices of intents do have a list of required information that is needed for us to review, and everyone can find that in the Nantucket wetlands regulations. And incomplete applications do not need to be heard, but I'm not going to comment further about what makes something incomplete or not. You can read it yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Joe.
Can I make that motion to adjourn?
Thank you. Seconded by, thank you, Tim. By roll call vote, Mark Beal.
Yes.
Tim Brain.
Aye.
Seth Engelborg.
Aye.
Mike Mizzarelli.
Aye.
Joe Plandowski.
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Aye.
And Ian Golding, aye. And thank you all for all the effort and the comments that you've made this evening when we're confronting some difficult issues. So
Thanks, Ian.
good
Well
night.
done, Ian.
Great.
Thank you. Good night,
Thank you
everybody.
all.
Aye.
Have a fantastic evening. Bye, Charles. Thank you for all that you do.